Hello and welcome to Nuffink and Like It, the podcast that chronicles the FWA's adventures on television. For reasons that will soon become clear, I am party guest number 1, Kieran, and joining me as always, party guest number 2, Eddie Sideburns. Eddie, how you doing?
I'm having a party, we're having a ball. I'm doing not bad. I'm very excited to be here for this party. Unfortunately, I've not got a party hat or anything. It's all just been so sad, but we're here to celebrate someone very, very lovely, and it's not Alex Shane.
I don't think he's ever been called very lovely. The very lovely person we are here to celebrate is legitimately having his 40th birthday today. Please bring presents and give the bumps to the birthday boy, Andy Ogden. Andy, how are you?
It's a pleasure to celebrate my birthday, recording a podcast. I wouldn't have it any other way. The end of my 30s, which was shit. So, bring on the 40s.
I've been there for a while. It's not that bad. I do want to make it clear to the listening public, this wasn't the only day we could do. He hasn't been coerced into this. When we were discussing recording dates after the last episode, Andy said the words, "I want an FWA British Uprising birthday party," so that's what we're giving him.
I feel like I could say to the two of you, the future is now old men, being the fact I'm young, but just like by a small margin now. Oh. But yeah, what a party to have, eh?
Yeah.
What a party, FWA, British Uprising.
Absolutely.
So
hey,
many
you know,
people.
there's like this show has pyro, confetti, bubble machines, music you can boogie to, and people having fights.
Two people he specifically hates getting absolutely jobbed out to fuck. So I don't know what much more he can love.
Yes, indeed. So, on a weekend that a lot of big wrestling is happening in London, we are going to look back at what at the time was big wrestling happening in London. British Uprising, one of the FWA's landmark shows, their debut at York Hall. This is October the 13th, 2002. Will our party bags be filled with delicious cake or horrible poo? Let's find out. So, earlier on this very wet day, we open up on the steps of York Hall. Fans are waiting. I immediately spy my old mate Phil Austin as a white stretch limo approaches. There is some highly dubious exposure and white balance matching across the cameras as the old school get out of the limo to a chorus of boos. It is Dean Ayers, Flash Barker, and Mark Sloan. I can see the face you're making, Eddie. I will explain how Mark Sloan fits into this as we go along. Things have happened. So, like, this is 7 months since, 8 months since Revival. So which was the last actual wrestling we covered, but nothing else has aired on TV. And I would say we're only covering this through a loophole in that it aired as a Sunday supercard on the wrestling channel later on. Otherwise, this was VHS only. So yes, these three get out of the car. We get an incredible shot of a young, bowl haircutted, Brit Res away days, Ben Corrigan doing a monkey dance at Mark Sloan.
I mean, the main thing I pointed out on Twitter, what on earth has he got in that bag, and how the fuck does he think he's going to get that in with York Hall security? If York Hall security are this bad now, how bad are they probably going to be at Waterfall?
One of the things is, Kieran, looking back at these old shows, it's always, like a game, try and find where Ben is. I think the only time we ever spotted him was that King of Europe show where we were up in the balcony, where they were having a brawl around the building, and all you can see is Ben in the background dancing away.
We are going to see a lot of front row Ben Corrigan over the next year or so. So as they get inside, Dean proclaims to the camera that Flash is going to be the next British champion. And also note the most gormless security guard you've ever seen standing slack-jawed and holding the inner door open for them.
Obviously with York Hall security, they've got a reputation now, finger up the bum, take your drugs off you, everything. This one was like that meme of that football steward, just lightly tapping in. In you go, Mr. Ayers.
Yeah. Patting you down through the power of Reiki.
So gormless. He looked like he was trying to go for an audition in, like, The Mummy or something, or, like, The Addams Family. He looked like he had no idea where he was. I put that down.
He quite possibly didn't.
Jesus.
He could also have been a wrestling trainee for all we know. So in the hall itself, we get sweeping lights, an air raid siren, building music with a futuristic voice giving the date and location, and our mate Gadge in the front row sticking his tongue out at the camera.
I put down nice simple entrance way, as you can hear FWA, and then the band slowly start clapping. One fan with glasses and no stopwatch in sight sticks his tongue out at the camera, and then I went pyro, fire. What on earth is that man doing sticking his tongue out?
So the fire that Eddie mentions, there is a white curtain with the FWA logo on it over the entrance, and that goes up in flames. I was at this show. I was directly opposite the entrance, about 7 rows back the opposite side of the ring. I felt that fire. That was so fucking hot on the night. The only pyro I felt that's been hotter was when I went to a SmackDown taping at the O2. And I was sat pretty much behind the hard cam. And Kane's stage pyro went off. And we felt it halfway down the O2. Insane. Unfortunately, the first person who comes out through the curtain is Steve Linsky. Jane Childs comes out, welcomes us to the show, and introduces our first match. Jack Xavier versus James Ty versus Raj Ghosh. Our commentators, I should mention, as they are probably going to be getting a lot of play on this show, are Tony Giles and Nick London, who, as we mentioned, is referee Andy Coyne and not Dean Ayers.
I have no idea what you're talking about. You sound very Dean Southmoon, Dean Ayers, Nick London talking over about himself, and making an entrance.
Tony Giles,
yes.
Is he a former snooker commentator? Because that's how we.
Isn't he a ref?
He was also a referee. He'd stopped reffing at this point, I think. Coyne hadn't, for whatever reason, leading to a ridiculous moment later on. I think he gets better. He is not the most dynamic of play-by-play men at this point. He's not quite Kent Walton, but he's not, he's not Mauro Ranallo either.
No.
I think as we go on, there are certain moments which should be sold bigger by the commentary that has all the energy zapped out of him like he's ready to go home and he just wants to get over and done with.
I do believe this was his first ever go at commentary. And if we
can we bring back the Geordie guy from Crunch then? Because we could at least have an attempt there. Guy.
I will take Tony over that dreadful Geordie. Ulf Herman, 7 foot of fury.
He won a competition to be there.
Yeah, he did. Wisely, James Ty tripping over the flame curtain frame in his entrance is cut out. I remember that from the night. And which is why you get just this elongated shot of Jane Child standing doing nothing. Tony Giles says of James Ty, "This man to me is like a young Lance Storm. He has the charisma. He has the." And I'm like, he certainly does have the charisma of a young Lance Storm. Yes, you're correct.
It was so weird seeing, because obviously of what we've seen in the time jump in terms of that James Ty getting cheered, because obviously all we've seen is him as part of Steptoe Toes with Sloan. But I mean, what do you want to say just about this? Jane Child seems like she has so much confidence from when we've seen her before.
Yes.
The balcony shot is a great shot from the balcony, and I did kind of wonder why are we focusing on Jane when James is making his entrance, but that makes sense now.
So this, I believe, was shot with 5 cameras, 2 at ringside and 3 in the balcony. Frontiers of Honor was definitely shot like that because I was one of the ones in the balcony. They start out tentatively, not quite knowing how to lock up, but then they kind of snap into like fluidly exchanging holds 3 ways, and then there's a couple of smart cradles and what is supposed to be a triple kip up, but Raj doesn't quite make it. James and Raj then kind of team up on Jack, ending up on the mat with Ty holding a leg lock and Ghosh a headlock. Raj then looks back over his shoulder, sees that Ty is leaning back too far and grabs him in a headlock too. So he's got like one head under each arm. Ty back rolls out of that, puts the leg lock back on, and is able to grab Ghosh for a chin lock at the same time.
Good job he didn't rope him.
All this time, poor Jack Xavier is just laying in a double hold on the mat. Ghosh Ghost escapes, hits a rolling neck slap on Ty, wrenching Xavier's knee in the process. They speed up with a bunch of complicated rope running and leapfrogs, ending with Xavier hitting an enzui-giri that sends Ty to the floor. Jack and Raj exchange various arm throws, including Ghost doing a really nice reversal of a hip toss into an arm drag, but Raj ends up hooked in a standing dragon sleeper. Ty then runs back in, drop kicks out Xavier's knee, so that Xavier ends up giving Raj a reverse DDT.
Yeah, I like that. That was quite good.
Ty hands off a ghost head scissors into a spinning DDT on Xavier and gets a 2 count off a leg lariat. He goes for a tiger driver, it looks like, but Raj slips out, hooks him for a Russian leg sweep, and then Jack comes steaming in and hits a running blockbuster on Ghost, so James gets leg swept. Jack readies James for a DDT, but Raj kips up, hits a reverse neck breaker on Xavier, and yes, Ty gets DDT'd. They do a little triple down, and then Xavier spears Ty in one corner and goes to do the same on Raj in the opposite one. But Ghost posts up over him, hooks him into the tarantula over the ropes. Before he can finish it, though, Ty drop kicks Xavier and sends both of the other two over the ropes to the floor. Ghost ducks as Ty flattens Xavier with an Azai moonsault and then does this really neat little spot where he holds the top rope, bounces off the bottom one to drop kick Ty, bounces on it again and uses the momentum to go all the way up to the top into a springboard dive, out onto both of them. Back inside, Raj batters James in the corner, Xavier breaks it up, and they do a reversal where Ty has Ghost in a waistlock for a German suplex, and they combine to backdrop Xavier. Ty keeps trying for this German, but Raj rolls it through into a clutch pin. Xavier breaks the count by rolling it back so James is on top, and then breaks the whole thing by giving Ty the Bishop Brennan special.
Brilliant.
That's great.
It's the most effective move in this match. Xavier hits the rolling release Xplex. Ty hits his Titanic. He's a bit too knackered to cover, though. He picks Jack up, but gets reversed. So Jack has him ready for a tornado DDT. Ty, though, re-reverses it and parks Xavier balls first on the top rope. In possibly the only dodgy spot of the match, James staggers out to the middle of the ring, and Raj just about grazes him with what's supposed to be a top rope dropkick, knocking him into Xavier, who tumbles to the floor.
The call here from the commentary, a glancing blow there.
Yes.
As the crowd go, boo, you fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a bit kinder than that. Like, they know these are like three young guys who are trying their best. Ghost does redeem himself with quite a nice delayed brainbuster on Ty, but his cover is weak and James kicks out. Time for the finish. Raj whips Ty off the ropes, who baseball slides out of the ring under Xavier, who does like the buckshot lariat flip back in. Xavier ducks a wild swing from Ghost and runs him into the ropes on Ty's side for an O'Connor roll, but Raj holds on. Ty then does a slingshot over the pair of them into a sunset flip on Xavier, who German suplexes Raj, but James has Jack down for the 3 count and wins an All England title shot.
I thought this was very hot TNA X Division opener from a pay-per-view normally. They quite got everyone quite going. And I was like, I wonder if people have watched this and reviewed this quite well on Cage Match and stuff. And I was like, well, I'll go on a Cage Match and have a look. And then I saw obviously the British Uprising Cage Match. There is one comment on this on Cage Match for British Uprising overall that doesn't even cover the entire show. It just covers this opening freeway.
Oh, I think I've read this.
This commentary is just for the opening freeway. The story behind this match is Alex Shane / Dean O'Scarlo.
Oh, yes, Dean O'Scarlo, like he's Irish. Yeah.
Yeah. And invited all 3 men to a gym, and they spent the entire day conceiving of and rehearsing the bout, and as a consequence, a very tightly performed 8.5-minute encounter.
Yeah.
The match is chock full of innovative spots, including obviously the finisher. He has his like JZ and JX and stuff like that. He then says, for my money, JX, the man whose fashion inspiration was M. Whipwreck, was the most charismatic, but James Ty did have the best body. And when your owner advertises himself as 6'6" and 290, that does count for something. 7. So he's given a 7 out of 10, just purely reviewing the first match and nothing else. And I respected that hustle.
Yeah, wrestling fans are weird.
But I thought this was quite. I thought this was. It was again. It was quite a hot kind of TNA kind of, as I said, opener from a pay per view that would normally always be the X Division spot.
Yeah.
It was good to see Raj Ghosh. He's doing quite well, even though he fucked up the kip up when they were trying to do the standoff at the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you not notice that every good couple of matches here had a nice wee standoff moment? People clearly have been watching.
So it is 2002. Like, we are just starting the American independent wrestling boom. So things that have happened since our last show are TNA has launched and Ring of Honor has launched.
I was gonna say it was clear. It was every kind of time there was a standoff. I'm like, someone's been watching the Ring of Honor tape.
Yeah, and that stuff was that stuff was going on towards the end of like ECW as well. You know, that's Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn type stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But I thought this was fine. This was really good. I enjoyed it.
Similar thoughts from myself. I thought Raj Ghosh, nice hairdo, early 2000s boy band. He looked like he'd fell out of A1, you know, Take On Me and all that. Yeah, it's a nice 10-minute match. That's always the thing with multi-person matches. It's like one in and one out. But with this, I think all three were in the ring basically all at the same time.
Yeah.
So it kept it flowing. That's always the issue with multi-person matches. I do like the name, the Titanic. That's a fucking really good move name. Yeah, I went about 3 1/4 out of 5. It's a sort of opener that you need on a show in it to get people in a bit of an atmosphere.
At the time, people went nuts for this. Like, you didn't get matches like this on British wrestling shows. You certainly didn't get it from 3 of the youngest members of the roster just being told, go out there and nail it. And I think they did. Like, apart from that, the only really dodgy thing is that dropkick spot. Like, he kind of bottles it, which is a shame. But also, I think he kind of, like, he might have jumped too hard. And if he hadn't bottled it, he'd have taken Ty's head off. Yeah, so, like, they get a standing ovation. There's an FWA chant at the end. And the super choreographed multi-man match was much less common than it is now, and has become over the intervening 22 years. I think everything flowed logically, and their timing and execution is really good. I also think, from a company perspective, putting this in the opener is a statement. It's telling you this is not the British wrestling you might remember. This isn't even Kerry Cabrero and Phil Powers from 5 years ago. This is modern independent wrestling. You are the fans that buy the TNA and the Ring of Honor tapes. Our young guys can do that X Division stuff as well.
Well, I'm going to say, Kieran, like even 10 years later when I first started watching PCW, always their staple, but the first match was a 4-way match. There's always have Dean Allmark, Martin Kirby, Noam Dar, all them similar wrestlers, and it was a cracking way of always starting the show.
Absolutely, people have very, very fond memories of this. We'll play a little game as we go along, not quite to the standards of Graps and Claps Play Your Ages Right, but I'd like people to guess some ages as we go along. I'm going to start with Jack Xavier, which is, I don't know. I couldn't find out. I think he's younger than me, and I was 23 at this point.
Well, he's a spunky, funky, chunky monkey, so he's about 23.
Yeah.
Puppy fan.
Yeah. So, how old is James Ty here, do you think?
James Ty. It's the pod features in it, so he looks pretty young. 23.
Okay.
I'll go 21.
He's 20.
Oh.
And Raj Ghosh?
Oh, he's 17.
Yeah, I would say 17, 18.
He is like 2 weeks away from turning 18.
Jesus.
Yeah. So imagine being 17 years old and being told, you're the opener of our biggest show. There's nearly 1,000 people in here. You've got to go out and nail this. Like, what pressure is that?
How long was he? How long was he into the business at that stage?
Like about 18 months. He'd been wrestling for about 18 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, none of these guys have been wrestling any more than 2 years at this point as well.
And you know what? Some wrestlers on this show had probably done it longer than that. And, you know,
very much so.
I hope they got a good payday of £25 instead of 20.
Well, we'll never find out. So in 2003, when the FWA did their first tour, the British Breakout Tour, they rematched this on every show. I think it was every show. Rumour has it there was one night where they outdid this one. Unfortunately, I was at the Acton show, and the one they did that night was crap. So backstage, the New Breed cut a very pink promo. The walls are pink. They are pink. It's ridiculous. They just talk about their upcoming tag title match against the UK Pitbulls. Curve does 95% of the work. It's very generic, and he calls the Pitbulls fat because they are.
Compared to the TV New Breed we've seen, this feels like just completely generic, devoid of all kind of like anything they had from the TV.
Yeah. I think we are getting to the point here where they've stopped getting on.
Oh.
I think they would come back together later, but there was a period where they'd had enough of each other. When Nick London is entertaining, he likes to listen to the high-octane beats of FWA The Music, Volume 1.
Justice for Mark Priest. Justice. How on earth could he fucking stand stealing that man's bits there for that? Fucking disgraceful.
Of all the things I thought would get under your skin on this show, I didn't think it was that. So,
there's tons.
Out comes a plainclothes show stealer, Alex Shane.
Before you carry on, Kieran, I do want to ask here, were the FWA letters made in the same arts and crafts class that Mark Sloan decorated that entrance?
I think they were in the more advanced class. Like that fucking horrendous, like inside out Dalek we looked at last time is just like on another level. Those things lasted for years, those wooden letters. They were around for ages.
It's a wonder they didn't just set alight, you know, with all the fire. And you probably needed Keith Lard in at that time.
So, yes, Alex Shane is here. If you look closely, you can see him pop out the earplugs he had in from his pyro going off. He is here to do a promo. He is not wrestling because he is recovering from an injury. Let's talk about Alex's injury. So, at Urban Legends on March the 22nd, he has a match with the old school assassin Carl Kramer, he was a guy who'd done Dale Martin in the 80s. He'd been on World of Sport a few times. He was one of Davey Boy Smith's opponents during the tour that he did between leaving the WWF at the end of 92 and joining WCW in 93. During that match, Alex does his over-the-corner dive, and Kramer, rather than catch him, swats him out of the way. And Shane lands on his tailbone on the floor. Later, Kramer gives Shane a tombstone on a chair and a top rope splash. Andy Coyne steps in to check on him, and Shane tells Coyne that he's hurt. So they stop the match, they throw it out. Coyne sprints to the back to get help, and the show just stops as Alex lays there motionless, and the locker room empties to help him. I was at this show. I remember this. I also remember Andrew Coyne insisting on the UKFF that Alex had told him he was injured for real. People who should have been in on it if it was an angle insisting they were told nothing. I remember the backlash against Carl Kramer with him being labelled unsafe, people saying that he was either clumsy or he did it on purpose, calling for him to be blackballed from the business. There was talk that it had hurt his career, and indeed I can't find any record of him wrestling for another 11 months. And when it came out that it was a work, fans were fucking furious. This turned out to be one of the FWA's first flirtations with the worked shoot. So you'll note, they used a guy that nobody knew for one night only rather than risk harming the career of a regular, such as putting Drew McDonald or Flash Barker in that spot. And it was playing off an incident, which I guarantee very few people knew about from a few years before, where Carl Kramer had a match with Dirt Bike Kid, and Kid had pissed him off, so Kramer deliberately didn't catch him on a dive. The reality is that, it's more that Shane was moving into more power behind the scenes, was taking over the book, and wanted some time off to heal from some actual nagging injuries and concentrate on the backstage stuff. But yeah, I remember this being a big deal online at the time.
Bro. That's all I could
It's just a shoot, bro. Come on.
Yeah. So Alex talks about Revival. He talks about how great the FWA is. Some stuff is very clunkily edited out. I can't remember what. He runs down the old school and says he wants to get a shot of them for good. And he says the first step is make sure that Jody Fleisch leaves as champion tonight. The old school theme then interrupts in mid-catchphrase, and out come Dean Ayers and Flash Barker. Dean just basically taunts Shane, saying it was the old school that fucked up his neck in the first place, and it was him specifically that gave the chair to Kyle Kramer for the tombstone. And then they go to leave. The crowd chant for Alex to fuck Dean up, and Shane replies that he can't because Dean is from Brighton and that happens to him every weekend. Shane, yeah, it's 2002. Shane says, despite despising Dean Ayers, there's one thing about him he finds kind of cool, and it's not the way his mum cuts his hair, his CNA wardrobe, his dedication to his full-time job as a junk food tester, or even his sponsorship from Shoe Express. It's the old school theme tune. He says nothing about Dean should be cool, and he's talked to the music guy, and every time he raises his hand, a very uncool piece of music will play. Dean's Dream theme. Andy, you were a TalkSport devotee. What the fuck was this all about?
Yeah, so and I was listening to it. I was like, it was one of those trying to remember. Did they play it on? Yeah, and it sounded terrible.
Yes,
it must have been like, what? I don't know what it were, to be honest. But yeah, it was bad. It was really just bad.
This segment again just felt very. There were some edits in it, so there was clearly some stuff that maybe went wrong. I think you mentioned it at the kind of beginning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're in this kind of day and age, so there's like certain chants that happen during it and certain things they're said. They're like, I don't know. I felt very... I don't know. I just felt like kind of weird this segment was happening, but then it did.
It's very odd and of the time and for certain people. It like without the knowledge of the Dean's Dream theme thing, like you got no idea what's going on. Honestly, I must have skipped over it on pretty much all my rewatchings of this because I thought this was the stuff that got edited out.
I think this segment felt like, and again, I'm going to use The Simpsons again, where it's like when it's like people should be asking, "Where's Alex Shane?" Like whenever.
Yeah,
it's like we need to have him in something.
Yeah, so don't forget he is the voice of the biggest publicity vehicle they have, which is the radio show.
Yeah,
so he has to be there somewhere, even if he's not going to wrestle because he's quote unquote injured.
Was that what the yellow thing was on the top of the? Yeah,
there was a TalkSport banner. There was advertising the radio show. Yeah.
Because there was that, and then the other one that I had no idea who Maxi
Maxi Muscle is a supplement that sponsored the FWA, specifically Flash Barker, I think. Still going today and is sold in the shop for muscle-headed bodybuilders up the road from where I live. You will note from the size of my arms, I never go in there. I remember being confused as fuck on the night and still confused 20 years later. So I asked Dean himself, what was this? And he says, I think it was just something that Ralph dreamed up as a feature for the radio show. I was asked to hate it on air. We often worked out ahead of time what viewpoint/opinion we would take on certain subjects to ensure a lively discussion on air. I also remember I was really ill that day. I think I had the flu. Alex said to me, just do the promo segment with him, and then they banned me from ringside for the main event. Still paid me the same, though. I got through that day on pure adrenaline. To which I responded, this must be the only time that Alex has paid what he said he was going to. So Ayers goes nuts at this. He demands it be shut off, and he yells about how Alex just wants to undermine his credibility and make the old school a laughing stock. But Barker is a former FWA champion and would still be if the office hadn't moved the goalposts. More on that later. Mark Sloan is the longest reigning All England champion, and they're the group that put Shane himself on the shelf. Shane says Dean is right, we all owe him an apology. He himself, the people sitting over there, the people sitting over there, and even the people all the way up there. And as he throws his hand up, the song plays again. I did note you can see a massive spot on Alex's back through his t-shirt when they show him from behind. It's horrible. It's like the fucking thing from Alien trying to get out through his back rather than his chest. Dean says, if you want, you can laugh at us. That's fine. But tonight, Flash has a match to get back the title he never lost, and the old school will stop at nothing to make sure he wins, and Alex needs to watch his back. Shane says he can come out here and have a laugh, but this is serious stuff. For 8 months, he's been at home plotting his revenge on the old school. He makes a promise that he's going to dismantle the old school brick by brick. And just as he says that, Mark Sloan slides into the ring from behind and brains him with a chair shot.
Well, I don't know, though. I think the wind probably brained it, weren't it? When they said it on the commentary, weren't it? Devastating chair shot. Fuck off.
How hard are you going to hit the booker, though?
He fell so hard on his arse after hitting that chair.
Oh, Sloan. Yeah. It was like... Yes. It was like the force of Alex's head repelled him.
It's like he'd headbutted the chair and then it suddenly vibrated, so he fell on his arse.
Yeah. Alex goes down like a sack of spuds in a tight t-shirt. Dean hits the ring and tells his corpse that he told them they would stop at nothing to get Flash's title back. And step one was making sure that Shane couldn't stick his nose into the match. Old school exit. Alex drags himself up and sprints after them. The musical comedy aside, I think this is quite solid in that kind of like opening of Monday Night Raw kind of way. I really noticed how good Dean was at keeping it anchored. Like, he's constantly not letting it get away from the facts that the old school are dangerous, credible wrestlers, and nothing is more important than Flash getting his belt back in the main event. He's keeping it about the match and about the show.
It's not like a segment where, like, in a certain area, you feel like it would just kind of go to the wayside, or it would go to, go off topic or something like that. It is kind of, and I think Shane and Ias kind of have a good kind of back and forth kind of chemistry.
Well, they're pretty much the only two people who can talk in this company, as we're going to see from various promos throughout the night.
Yeah. But like, I mean, it was a decent. Obviously, Shane wanted to be on the show because obviously he's been off for a while. It kind of then builds into what's going to happen later on, so it kind of makes sense. Yeah.
So backstage, and thankfully not in the pink bit with the breeder in, we have a brand new Drew McDonald. He says he's a man alone. No more Dean Ayers leading him to the ring like a pet dog. No more Vixen stealing his spotlight. He then says, I am the man, and to be the man, you've got to beat the man. Fucking hell, dude. You cannot rip off one of the most famous catchphrases in wrestling.
I was going to say with this, Kieran, like my notes, is Porno, Dungeon Master, Drew in the back. How much dye has he got on? Lost the tanning bottle. He looks like a new potato, doesn't he?
I've put Drew McDonald has discovered BDSM. He looks like he should be in the Blue Oyster Bar. This was weird. This was like you see him as this kind of like evil bad guy with Dino Scarlo, and then you see this and you kind of think, what?
Yeah. He says Robbie Brookside's been in his face everywhere they go, so tonight he's going to rip Brookside's heart out and eat it while your stinking body is still squirming in the ring. Do you know what? I don't think this version of Drew McDonald is worth me cracking out the impression anymore.
No.
The time has got... You're right, he feels completely different, which is kind of the point, but like here, he does just seem like an old man rather than a threat. It's very weird.
Yeah. It's like an old man trying to, like, dye his hair and pretend, it's like the how do you do, fellow kids, but it's like, Can
you imagine Drew McDonald on a skateboard? Right. Match number 2, after some half an hour of recording, is for the All England title. The champion, the Zebra Kid, versus Hayde Vanson. Quick recap. Mark Sloan successfully defended against Jack Xavier at Urban Legends, but came up short in a non-title four-way at Carpe Diem in June. Yes, there were no shows between those, so that's 3 months. In a match that also featured Scotty Rock, Paul Travell, and the eventual winner, Zebra Kid. This granted Zebra a title shot at Vendetta in Telford on July the 25th, which he won. And Vanson got this shot by virtue of pinning Drew McDonald. Well, I don't know if he pinned him. Let's say beat Drew McDonald the previous month at Hot Wired. For the young or unaware, Zebra Kid is better known these days as Roy Knight. He's the brother of Zack Knight, father of Ricky Knight Jr., don't think too much about that name, and the brother of Saraya / Paige Howe.
That's better than your Drew impression.
He's also, at this point, father to a really, really cool looking Billy Ray Cyrus.
Oh, the fucking Norfolk waterfall on that man. What a mullet. Oh my god.
Oh, I thought he was about to sing Achy Breaky Heart at some point.
Yeah. Yep. Haid likes Ben's hat on his entrance. We should mention, okay, so at this point, Ben Corrigan's gimmick is UK hat guy. So, Jesus Christ, I'm going to sound like the oldest man in the world. ECW had a pair of very famous fans who sat in the front row, a guy in a Hawaiian shirt and a guy who wore a straw hat to every show. They were in the same seats every single ECW arena show. Ben, for whatever reason, was the UK version. He wore a straw hat to every single show he went to. We will see that hat a lot. He was UK hat guy on the UKFF, the whole works.
And then he was Big Benny HG.
Big Benny HG, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then,
I'm going to ask Kieran.
Yes.
With Haid Vanson, what's with the racist Japanese panpipe music?
It's because he likes kung fu. That's one of the things they
kind of. I think it's like, hey, he's a man of ambiguous ethnicity who does martial arts.
But it's very funny that it's like he is the South City Thriller in his nickname, and yet he's coming out to the Oriental kind of music.
It is like the FWA version of the Orient Express music, isn't it? That they would give, the WWF would give like everybody from like east of Russia for like 20 years. Yeah.
It's.
Who else used that? Like, did they give it to, I think they might have given it to Loki when he showed up as well. We'll find out.
Pete Vanson does look like a Mortal Kombat character at some point with the way his attire is.
Yeah, a little bit. So we start with the holiday camp. Who can get the most cheers on the middle rope? Oh no, the heel has attacked Spot. But Haid turns it around and batters Zeb at high speed. They spill outside where Zebra, according to Tony Giles, hits an awesome super kick, worthy of any of the... and just stops. This show is taped. Think of something and do the line again.
He's just bad. He's just, honestly, it's his first show, and if he's listening, I'm sorry, mate, but like...
What if it turned out the only people who listen to this were former FWA staff members? And they're all in a group chat going, those fucking cunts.
If the two people, if Andy Coyne and Tony Giles are just messaging each other going, you hearing the shit that these three are talking about? Because I know Andy Coyne, I'm pretty sure, has quote tweeted the podcast and said, "Oh, has he? Interesting listen." Before he may have, I can't remember.
Oh dear.
But yeah.
Well,
jeez, yeah.
So
not good.
Zebra follows up with the kind of out of control dive Raven used to do, where he just hurls himself over the top and collapses two barriers with Vanson's body. The second of which via another leap off the top to the floor.
Them barriers just didn't. How did they pass Elfin safety?
They got a fucking battering throughout this show. Unbelievable. They belong to the FWA. Like they went on the ring van.
There was a moment where, like, in one of the matches, I think it was thankfully at the end for them, that it looked like one of the guardrails was like falling off. The metal of it was falling off.
So there is. We're skipping ahead. There is a shot that I put in a music video because I loved it so much. There was one show where they put one of the barriers the wrong way round. So instead of it being the frame side to the audience and the mesh towards the wrestlers, so that when the wrestlers hit the mesh, it would just hit the frame, they had it the other way round. And Raj Ghosh gets whipped into it by Ulf Herman, hits the mesh and goes straight through the thing.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, I've got like a good couple of lines here for commentary that happens during this match. And I also can't remember why I put this in my notes, but I'm going to go with it anyway. Tony Giles sounds like Kieran.
No.
And I was like, why have I written this down? I mean, if you want to repeat some of the lines that he says during this,
I'm scared to now.
Great lines like you can show me anything you like. This man has a bad hairstyle, and that was not beautiful. That was not pretty, but it was effective. And my favorite one, which was, I don't know what to call that other than a leg drop to the leg.
all right, let's get through this thing. Roy hits a Liger bomb. He abandons the cover to go up top for quite a nice frog splash. They go back outside again, where Zebra mostly hits Arana off the apron. A Brutus Beefcake chant breaks out as Zebra just hurls Vanson across the ring with a superplex. And then, yes, the leg drop to the leg, which I guess is like a one-man version of the acclaimed Sesame Timbers.
Yeah.
Hayde gets walloped with a clothesline in the corner, then finally starts to come back with a thrust kick out of the other corner, and what Tony Giles calls a whisper in the wind, but it's so all over the place, it's more of a scream into the hurricane. Out on the floor, there is another messy flip, a tour of ringside furniture and some chops. Knight avoids a tope, though, and drapes Hayde across a chair for a leg drop off the apron that just crumples the chair. A 2 count off almost a jackhammer back into the ring, and then... oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, this is one from Coin/London. Hayde has the kicks to win the man silly. What the fuck does that mean? They go outside again. Hayde almost sends both of them up the ramp with this massive springboard clothesline. But Zebra can't be bothered selling it and almost immediately comes back with a powerbomb on the floor and a flip sent on off the apron.
There was a commentary. He just powerbombed him on the outside.
Yes.
And it was like a break between that. And I'm like, my fucking God here.
Zebra with a top rope drop kick for 2 and then distracts the ref to back heel Hayde in his South City, followed by an implant DDT, a Boston Crab. Vanson fights back with a running double knee strike in the corner and a sort of shining wizard that Nick London calls Wham Bam Hayde Van San. I hope we never hear that again. Zebra Kid has more guts than garters, obviously. This is only match 2, and I already want to stuff my socks down Andy Coyne's throat. He is fucking terrible.
Shit, innit?
Jesus Christ. We have got...
Do better, Dean. Do better, Dean.
It's not Dean. We have got another 12 to 18 months of listening to these dickheads.
Oh, no.
I bet you'll be missing the Geordie in no time, mate.
I feel very, very apologetic towards Mark Priest already. So Vanson hits the top rope Frankensteiner, misses a diving headbutt, allowing Zebra to capitalise with his really nice Zebra crossing top rope elbow drop for the pin.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote, good execution, but no semblance of story or psychology, which pretty much sums up Roy Knight as a whole.
Kieran.
Yes?
You know what? I put, this is, 2002, and 22 years later, the Knights, Roy Knight, Zach Knight, Ricky Knight, they all follow the same formula with, don't give your opponent fuck all, this is a night match.
I remember talking to him once, and he just said, I just do what I want. I don't care if I'm a blue eye or a villain, I do what I want. It's just how the crowd react to what I do.
How did he come up with Zebra Kid? How did that come about?
I've got no idea because there was an American wrestler called Zebra Kid years and years ago, I think in the 60s or 70s. He was a masked guy with a stripy mask. I have no idea why he was the Zebra Kid. For the same reason perhaps that Zack Knight was Zack Zodiac under a mask for so long. Maybe he started super young or whatever and they didn't want to show, oh fuck, it's a kid or whatever.
I mean, my first ever interaction or any kind of notice of anything any Knight did that wasn't Page was obviously the incident with Zebra and Davey Richards.
Yes,
and I was kind of and seeing him here, and I'm like, okay, the gear was kind of very Steiner-esque with
it's horrible. It's clearly made by his gran. It's got stripes, tassels. It's got 3 see-through panels down the sides, which I always remember noted. You can see the waistband of his G-string through them. It's not a good look at all. And the mullet, holy shit.
But you couldn't imagine him with the mullet now because for many years, what we've seen him, it's all
it comes off not long after this, actually. By the time we get to the TWC shows, it's gone.
Gone completely.
I was going to say, though, even though it probably sounds like, I'm not a big fan of the night match, I'm a big fan of him and Zach as the hooligans. I thought they were Just a great.
They are like both of them. Like, I mean, Zach less so. I mean, Ricky Knight Jr. is clearly the best of the lot when it comes to mechanical in-ring working.
Yeah.
But like Roy, as I said, like his execution is great. That top rope elbow drop is beautiful.
Oh, he floats.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just. I think it's the wind, like catching in the mullet. But like Hayde gets almost nothing. He gets eaten alive, and like Zeb's not interested in selling for him at all.
How long has Hayde been established as a kind of FW wrestler at this point?
Oh, not long. We saw his first FWA match was the Acton taping. We've seen it.
Oh, right. Okay.
And that was end of 2001, so less than a year.
Right. Okay.
How old's Hayde Banton?
Oh, 19.
All right.
Man who would dethrone The Undertaker, 18.
21.
Oh, okay.
How old's Zebra Kid?
22. He'd probably be pretty young.
Harsh Paper Round, 23.
He's 20.
Fucking
He is 20 years old in this match.
Bloody hell, what is he now then? 42?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. The commentators say, up next, the new breed. Cut to the family in the pink corridor. So, we need to do a little bit of explanation here. This is our first time seeing the family. They have formed in the space between Revival and Uprising. So, at No Surprises, which was the month before, Paul Travell turns on Academy trainee Graham Hughes to join Brandon Thomas and the injured Ian Disciple in what are becoming the quasi-religious heel stable, the family. Travell and Thomas then immediately pin the new breed in a match after that. I watched it. It's fucking horrible. Don't watch it. After the match, they try to sacrifice Ash, which is where two members hold his arms out in a crucifix pose, and the third will brain him with a chair, but Curve runs them off. Also, at No Surprises, they did an angle where Scotty Rock wasn't booked, so he bought a ticket, got drunk and belligerent, and was then thrown out by security. My guess is he then joined the family after Thomas pinned him at Hotwired, which was like 4 or 5 weeks before this.
And I don't think we've mentioned as well, Kieran, on previous episodes, isn't Brandon Thomas the third Hunter brother?
Is that true? I've heard this.
Yes.
Is he really?
He is.
That's so funny.
What?
Oh, yeah. You know the Hunter brothers, right?
Yeah. But like...
Jim and or Lee and Lee and or Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brandon's the third one.
All of them, for people who haven't seen them, all of them look like varying levels of 70s heartthrob pop star. Like they all look like clones gone wrong of David Essex somehow, don't they?
Yeah. Either that or Francis Rossi from
yes. Yeah, when they tie the hair back, they all become Francis Rossi. Yeah, so I had heard this rumour. I didn't realise it was true.
Yeah, no, it's correct.
Wow.
When these guys appeared on my screen, I was like, oh, this is a new, like, 90s kind of rock boy band. And then I saw... And then I saw rock band, not pop. And then I saw Ian Disciple's face, and I couldn't stop laughing.
Oh, fuck
it.
Well, he couldn't stop laughing either.
What's it? Ian De Silva Disciple. He's had the Benjamin Button effect, and he's aged in reverse.
Yeah,
he looked 18 here.
No,
when he wrestled Gino Scarlo, he looked like he's ready for fucking knackers yard. Really?
You've turned 40 and you already need glasses. He does not look 18 in this. Also, I guess you can hardly see him. Like he's in the back and he's grinning like a goon all the way through this. Brandon, this starts on a great note. Brandon Thomas starts this with, if you don't know who we am, which might be a Birmingham thing, I don't know. Thankfully, Paul Travell takes over. He says when he first found out he was wrestling Nikita tonight, he said no. Why should he wrestle a girl? But after consulting with the Messiah, the guidance he received was that an example must be made and she may be the next person to take the sacrifice. He then hands off to Scotty Rock, who says he's finished his anger management course, had no clue about that angle, and is now a calm man. And then he starts screaming and hollering and kicking the walls, and the others hold him back, and we fade to an ad for T-shirts.
You've won the rest. now we're the best.
Yeah.
That was the tagline.
I liked the show stealer one. I thought
I'm really annoyed that my favourite one of those designs is the show stealer number plate one. But it's fucking stupid because that's not what British number plates look like.
The Scotty Rock anger issues angle, like that screams pure 2013 like WWE Raw. Like, oh, we've sent him to take care of himself. He's going to have therapy. It's like, I'm fine. And this stable looked really weird to me because I'm like, what's going on here? Who are these people?
Yeah. Match number 3 is for the FWA tag team title. The New Breed are challenging the UK Pitbulls. I'm assuming, Andy, you've seen the Pitbulls before, right?
I've seen Bulk's ass.
I was going to say not many people can say that, but probably a lot can.
It was a rise at the Broodingell Social Club in Leeds. It was part of the Rumble, and they brought Bulk in. They're still around nowadays.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, hanging around with Big Effing Joe.
Yep. And I wanted to ask young Edward, had you ever encountered these men before? Have you ever seen them wrestle before? Because this show is new to you, right? You'd never seen this at all before, like, this week.
Yeah, I'd never seen this at all. Big shout, Big F and Joe, by the way. Big fan of the pod. Love you, mate. I was baffled by them. I was like, who the fuck let these people on this show? It felt very different. And then I kind of had a pop at what happened at the beginning of the match because one of the people I've been waiting for to appear.
That's not... God, you're so keen, aren't you? For the uninitiated, the UK Pitbulls are an enormous pair of fat lads called Bulk and Big D, or Big Dave, depending on where they're booked. They got booked everywhere because of their size, and they could be a bit hit or miss. I think I have seen the Pitbulls' best, UK Pitbulls, and I don't want to get them confused with the ECW Pitbulls, the UK Pitbulls' best ever match, and it wasn't this one. Picture the two biggest bikers you've ever seen wearing black and orange wrestling singlets. So, tag title recap. The last time we had tag team champions, they were Drew McDonald and Ulf Herman. They were stripped at Urban Legends because Ulf didn't show up. And the belts were put up for grabs that night in a gauntlet match, in the opener, in fact. And the Pitbulls won over the New Breed, La Familia, Hayde Vanson and Nikita, Chris Justice and James Ty, and the Duke of Danger and Cruise. They successfully defended them against a team of Electric Mayhem, who are Shocks and Nathan Sparks. No, I've never heard of them either. At Vendetta in Telford on July 25th. And on that same show, the New Breed won the, quote, Dream Tag Team match against Jody Fleisch and Johnny Storm, putting them back in title contention. So Breed come out first. They do a little bro handshake as their pyro goes off, and then they get in the ring, and in one of my favourite ever memories of British wrestling, they immediately botch a high five. Seeing this complete travesty, another wrestler rockets into the ring and attacks them. Birchall. As they say on commentary, Birchall has been showing up, I believe the first time was at No Surprises, so I guess he was a surprise. He's been showing up during the undercards and, like, taking out the undercard wrestlers with, like, these spectacular moves. Birchall, some of you may remember Paul Birchall as the pirate / the man who wanted to fuck his sister in WWE. He's about 6'4", 280 pounds, and can do... Think of all your favourite moves from every wrestling video game you've ever played. Paul Birchall can do all of them.
I was going to say, Kieran, 6'4". He's never seen that. I put he's about 5'11".
No. So I'm
5'11" with lifts.
I am closing in on 6'2", and I've stood next to him while he was wearing flip flops, and he's taller than I am.
6'4".
Yeah, big lad.
He's such a wrestler's wet dream.
Yep.
Like he's any company's wet dream
Yep.
of someone you would think he plays absolutely everything. He looks the part.
Yep.
He can wrestle. As you see, he can do some great indie moves.
Yeah.
Like the finisher he had in WWE, which was the C4.
We will get to that.
beautiful.
We will get to that. That's not yet. That is an FWA debut move.
Right, okay. But he's just so good.
Yeah. He had kind of two things working against him, as we maybe saw on Fort Boyard. Wasn't a great talker. Had a buzz eye. Although that didn't stop Shawn Michaels, I suppose. So he slides into the ring and he destroys the New Breed. Curve gets a torture rack neck breaker. Ash takes a rolling Samoan crash and a standing moonsault. Curve manages to knock him down with some kicks and a spinning leg lariat. And in a shot I have loved for 20 years, Birchall just kips up, not using his hands, cracks his neck and shakes his head. Curve then sprints into a clothesline for getting dragged outside and smashed through the timekeeper's table with an emerald flosion off the apron. Birchall just stands, looks menacing, and leaves. This, on the night, was cool as fuck. So as staff, including Styx, RJ Singh, Greg Burridge, and Kenny McBride, tend to Curve on the floor, here come the Pitbulls. Ash tries to talk to them. He's asking them to call the match off because of what's happened to Curve, but he's pleased. They fall on fat, deaf ears. He's able to get in a little offense using his speed to make the two giants crash into each other. He does a sliced bread on Dave, and he bulldogs Bulk down onto Dave. But when he goes to check on Curve, the Bulls follow him out to the floor and just smash him on the floor. Big Dave then, quite impressively, military presses him over the top rope from the floor. Ash gets crushed by a running double splash in the corner, a double choke slam, and a combination splash leg drop, but they pull him up at 2 and then just finish him off with a double team Liger bomb. The match itself is only just over 2 minutes, but was probably the best way to deal with this match. I cannot imagine a regular match between the UK Pitbulls and the New Breed being any good. Plus, great way to introduce Birchall on a bigger stage, and it's the seed of the New Breed breaking up.
I was going to say, my final line on this, on my notes, was my favourite 10 minutes of this, of all the episodes we've watched, as the New Breed just get the shit smashed out of them. Oh, brilliant, weren't it? A load of big lads just battering these two bloody arseholes up. It's brilliant.
I think, like, because the thing is with tag teams, like, there's not many tag teams left in this company anyway. No. The Stanos have probably went back to Columbia. Breed kind of, it is a good way to kind of tease an ending for them, I guess. Where did the Pitbulls come from, though? Because I take it they weren't. What part of the scene were they originated from?
The Pitbulls?
Yeah.
Like I said, like, they were booked everywhere. Like, I've seen them in WAW. Okay. I've seen them all over the place.
Just very interesting, because good for them to come in and obviously do this stuff.
They were an established tag team on the UK scene.
Right, okay.
Like, for some years at this point. And, like, there have been various incarnations of the Pitbulls as well. I think, like, I think Dave had some health issues. So, like, Bulk went out and found another Pitbull, like another man this size and shape to carry on with.
I think I'd like to point out as well, with Bulk, he does a nice roly-poly.
He does, yes. I believe that is called the Bulk-a-Rolla.
The Bulk-a-what?
The Bulk-a-Rolla.
Oh, yeah. No, I did enjoy a bit of a Bulk-a-Rolla action.
Ages. Ash.
Oh, I'll say 22.
Yeah, I'd probably say that as well. About 22.
25. Curve.
I think we're on a downward curve here, aren't we? So, but 23.
24.
Eddie wins the speedboat. Here we go. The Pitbulls. I'll give you a hint. Big D is the oldest man on the show so far.
30?
35.
That's one speedboat each. Andy gets it right.
Wow, 30.
Yeah. And Bulk.
Oh, go on the Bulk. So if he's... Oh, bloody hell. Well, he's still going round today, isn't he? So... be surprised. Probably 28.
I was going to say 27.
The Bulk, Mike Waters, is 24 years old in this match.
Oh. Fucking hell.
That That is some harsh paper round that boy has had.
Do you think he could ride a bike? He's enormous. He's a legitimate 400-pound man. He's huge.
One of those tiny carnival clown bicycles.
Like that routine that Homer has to do dressed as Krusty.
Yeah. Like the one with Mr. Teeny as well at some points where he has to get
24.
Oh no, Eddie, now you've got me imagining him in the Jigsaw makeup from Saw. On the little truck. What a play game.
I would say the thing is when you see him on Instagram videos, and I because not knowing he was 24, I'd instantly put him down as because they've been around a bit in mid-50s.
Yeah.
Mid-50s, going up to the 60s, but King Jesus.
Backstage again, and here is Ulf Herman. Hell yeah, we coming back. It's ECW time. Fuck all this. Fuck WWE. Fuck TNA. I don't give a shit. Tonight, it's a real wrestling. It's real hardcore. It's real blood. It's real professional wrestling. And not this crap you'll see on television. It's us. It's Balls Mahoney against Herman the German. And you know, nobody's perfect, but I'm pretty fucking close. Remember that when you seen this on your screen. I think Ulf promos might be my new favourite thing about this project. That made no sense whatsoever.
Best promo guy, other than Shane and Ias. I think he's one of the best promo guys, just purely based on this alone. I want to video clip that bit where he says "fuck WWE" and put it on Twitter as many times as possible, just because of how funny he is.
It's slightly disappointing that they bleep all the swearing.
Oh, they bleep the swearing out, and then in the Balls Mahoney promo, they don't bleep out him.
No, I know.
But this was just, honestly, again, he gets to his point. He he's got something different about him that separates him from everyone else. He clearly loves ECW.
Yes.
He clearly loves that shirt, which I don't think he'll ever take off. Just wants to remind you. He's great though. Ulf is anytime Ulf has been on the screen in one of these, he's not done anything that's awful. That's I'd never watch this again. He's quite entertaining.
There's nobody else like him. That's the point. You're going to see Ulf Herman. You're not going to see Ulf Herman and someone else who does the same act as Ulf Herman.
Yeah, exactly. He's just, honestly, he's one of the, since he's came into the FWA, he's been great.
Mm-hmm.
He's been honestly great.
So Drew McDonald's horrible music plays and he staggers down to the ring. Thankfully, he now covers his legs with combat trousers, so we're not having to see him get split in half by his own singlet. A Scots guard is a bit hard, says Tony Giles. He gets the mic and he essentially repeats his backstage promo from earlier, challenging Robbie Brookside to have their match right now.
There was a great sign in the background as well, weren't it? Drew ate my jelly babies.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, cracking sign, that one.
So Robbie Brookside does indeed come out. Nick London explains that this is a TWA sanctioned match for reasons I will detail in a minute. Do either of you want to have a guess at what the T in TWA stands for?
Terrible.
Okay, good guess.
I mean, I could ease turnbuckle.
It is.
Oh, fuck off.
It is the Wrestling Alliance.
Oh.
So, at No Surprises, there was a stipulation throughout the whole show that if any member of the old school lost their match, they were gone from the FWA. Drew escaped this by beating surprise opponent Dave Taylor. Yes, that Dave Taylor. But the stip then carried over to Hotwired, where he lost to Hade Vanson after Robbie Brookside interfered. Brookside borrows Ben's hat for his entrance. And the Brookside versus Kendo Kashin Classic the commentators talk about was actually crap. I had to watch that too. So, TWA promoter Scott Conway is the referee. The match is boring and ends in a double DQ in about 9 minutes that felt like 19. I have nothing to say about it. There's no hilarious botches. It's just crap and dated for even 22 years ago. Anybody got anything to say?
Yes, my few notes, the Wildcat Robbie Brookside.
Or the Wild Child, as Tony Giles keeps calling him. His name is the Wildcat, but Giles keeps calling him Wild Child.
Right, I'd rather watch Thundercats than the Wildcat here. I'd rather have the Wildcat Mark Mero than fucking Brookside. My next note was this is the Battle of Brookside versus Take the High Road, which was a cracking drama on like weekday afternoons.
Mm-hmm.
Always remembered from my childhood. Yeah, crowd is silent for this one. Typical Brookside match on these shows. You know what? I've just got it in my head all the time. Robbie Brookside versus Chad Collier from Unified. Shit. Robbie Brookside. Terrible. And as we said, fucking representing the House of Smack.
Yeah.
Robbie Brookside.
Yeah.
Terrible wrestler.
Yeah. I wanted to get from our Scotland correspondent his thoughts on this potentially racist line from Nick London. Drew McDonald is no mere mortal. He is from the depths of hell. Scotland, to be exact.
He can fuck up for that, because that was fucking obscenely bad. Just like this match. And I don't know why these people had this out for this fucking referee as well, because that referee took a fucking battering at certain points as well. But yeah, I was very offended by that line. That was fuck off, Andy Coyne. But like, yeah, I didn't like this either. It felt like a double DQ, and then because Brookside's attacking Drew, and then the ref's trying to pull him off, and then he just punches the ref, and then like the ref who's making the right call then ends up getting beaten up, and then also the two commentators on the commentary, the two referees on commentary are then burying this.
Yeah, they bury the ref too.
And it's so fucking wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was bad. I won't remember anything.
I suspect this was presented under the TWA banner to kind of say, we don't do this lame shit here anymore.
We're washing our hands of it.
Yeah, exactly. This is an era of British wrestling we're leaving behind. And one of the stories I heard was that they were told to take it easy and basic to bring the crowd down.
But then again, Kieran, on like Alex Shane promoted shows like a couple of years after this, when like International Showdown, where they had Steve Gray and
that happened before that. Yeah, they were doing so throughout 2003 they did a series of guest matches, which would be offer matches from other promotions. So there was like a WXW one, there was a Premier Promotions one, and later on, once I think it might have been once the Wrestling Channel launched, they did World of Sport guest matches, or at least one, I remember. I don't know if it ever made TV, but I had to film it. It's
Tell
weird.
you what, your arm must have been hurting during that match. How long? 25 minutes?
It's weird, like what parts of British wrestling history they want to embrace and what they don't. But I'm all for chucking this in the bin. Backstage again, Johnny Storm has found a window in the pink corridor and has decided this is where I'm going to cut my promo. He says he didn't get much sleep last night because this is such a big event and it makes sense to have the best of British against the best of the US, himself versus AJ Styles. He wants to show that British wrestling is among the best in the world. I guess it must be in the delivery because the content of these promos is shit.
It's the moment. Is this the one where he turns and looks at the camera midway through or something like that, or he's like he poses style, he goes style and action.
Oh yeah. There's a cut in it, and he does his when he goes to do his catchphrase. That is because the camera operator, I remember hearing about this, was supposed to zoom out to like get him doing his pose and zoom the wrong way, so they just did a cut and had him do it again.
So there's like some camera footage of like Johnny Storm's like body, like
his sternum, yes, yeah. And so match number 5, Doug Williams versus Jerry Lynn. If anyone has watched this, is listening now, and is wondering why the commentators keep saying this is the main event of part 1, that is because this was released across 2 separate VHS tapes, several months apart. Essentially, the sales of part 1 financed the creation of part 2, because they could make more money that way. So I believe they were they were 10 or 15 quid each in 2002, like these 90-minute tapes, and 2-hour blanks are cheaper than 3-hour blanks. They would do, I think the only other show they did this for was Frontiers of Honor the next year, and they got so much shit over doing it because like that was a massive delay between the parts as well. They got so much shit about it, they stopped doing it after that.
I had that as well. I had part 1 on VHS.
Only part 1?
Only part 1. It was nice on here. I think there's an advert for it. Extreme Central UK, which was the wrestling show in Manchester City Centre, and he said it was like stockies for the FWA. So they have some of the merch in there. I got part 1 on VHS, and I don't think I ever saw part 2 in there. I remember at Frontiers of Honor, I got on their copied DVD, sort of like you just go to the side, like the side of the shop, and he just come out with this bloody case of just all copied DVDs and what.
Are you dropping someone in it for piracy 20 years after the fact?
Well, one time the bloody police come in and just hide over there with them, just have a look over there while they're coming in. But no, that I spent hours in that shop. Such great times. Drop like 25 quid a week on. Spend the training money on that, and obviously the owner of that, Mike, ended up running HXC Wrestling in Manchester. Right. Ran the Ritz was the final venue he ran, and then I think Progress took on the wrestling there, and I think one of the stories is they got booted out of the Ritz, HXC, because he had a piss through their letterbox.
The idea of,
but I think he ended up doing a lot of promoting of like new metal nights and I like seeing him after he'd done the like the wrestling and all that. Absolute lovely fella. Yeah, can't fault him.
One of the things you mentioned astounds me. The idea of them only being able to produce a part 2 based on the sales of part 1 just would be the idea of like if a TV show had a cliffhanger on a VHS 2 part but then couldn't finance the second part, so you would just keep wondering what on earth would happen.
I mean, this promotion was much cheaper than they ever let on. Like this, believe even with all these imports, this shit was run on a shoestring.
I was going to say, regards not a wrestling thing, but I've bought music CDs of bands who've done that where they've had enough money for like part 1 and they keep hanging on for a part 2, and it just doesn't happen because they've been dropped by the record company.
Yeah.
So. Huge pop and tons of confetti for Jerry Lynn. Tony Giles introduces him as a former ECW World Champion, former WWF Light Heavyweight Champion, and a former, maybe even current, TNA X Division Champion. He either is or he isn't, man. He wasn't, by the way. He vacated it due to injury 4 days before this show, and it was won by Sean Waltman in a ladder match that same night. I seem to recall he'd done something to his foot, and there was some concern as to whether he would make this show. So, chain wrestling to start. Doug even cracks off a Cornish hype, which is a move I really like. They speed up with some rope running, head scissor, headlock reversals, both going for a drop kick at the same time, and yes, the old indie standoff. Lynn takes control by trapping Williams in the corner and battering him, and then hits his signature, they stuck their head through the ropes, leg drop slice, and a Liger flip off the apron, which is much nicer than Hayes earlier. Doug gets whipped into a corner, fakes out Jerry by pretending he's going for a twisting crossbody off the middle, but takes too long getting ready for whatever it is he has in mind, which allows Lynn to bring him back in with a bulldog off the middle rope.
Kieran, one thing to mention as well with this match is the pile driver. Has been lifted to this match.
Yes. So the FWA has instituted a ban on the pile driver. In kayfabe, it's partially because of the tombstone to Alex on the chair, and for something else that we will talk about later. No joke, 3 days after the website published the news of the pile driver ban, they advertised that Jerry Lynn was going to be coming to British Uprising, who is known for the cradle pile driver.
I do like the way they played off where like Doug asked for it to be lifted.
Yeah,
I thought that
yeah.
was quite a good wee bit to work around it.
He's a sportsman. He wants to take on this man at his best. He doesn't want half of Jerry Lynn. He wants the whole effing show. Well, he's the new effing show.
He wants Jerry Lynn that looks like he's coming out of a fireplace in the entranceway.
Williams holds the ropes to avoid a drop kick and then goes to work on Jerry's back. And I like his inverted gory special that he then runs backwards into the turnbuckles. I can't remember what it was, but somebody calls something a cross-face semi-Mexican board maneuver. Lynn comes back with a twisting sunset flip out of the corner and into a series of clutch pins for 2 counts until they pop up and clash heads for a double down. Let us start our first FWA commentary drinking game. Take a shot every time either commentator gets the words administer and admonish mixed up. So the referee apparently gives a 10 count on good telling off until the wrestlers get back up at 6 or 7. Williams is back on top with forearms. He has this nice 2-hit running knee combo he does where he's like whips them into the corner, does one into the corner, and as they stagger out, he goes to the ropes and then hits them again as they get to the middle of the ring. And then goes up for possibly the best named move in the FWA. No, second best. I know what the best named is. The bomb scare knee drop.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Jerry dodges a running knee strike in the corner. Doug hops up on the second rope to avoid the impact and points to his head because he's very smart and that's where the brain is. But Lynn springs off the middle rope and twists into a lovely sunset flip powerbomb. Only a 2 count, though. Another 2 off a textbook top rope superplex, then Lynn signals for the cradle pile driver. The reversal to this blew my fucking mind. Doug stands up. So Jerry is effectively sitting upright on the back of his neck and then spins him around into regular seated on the shoulders position and then sits out into an electric chair face buster.
That move is beautiful. The one that he used, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Andy Coyne is so excited by this, he counts way too fast, but Jerry grabs the ropes. Williams with a fisherman buster for another 2 count. He goes for a second one, but Lynn reverses it into a Fujiwara armbar, and this time Doug gets the ropes. Corner whip reversal sees Doug make an attempt at the Revolution DDT, but Lynn throws him off and counters into a TKO for his own very close 2 count. Lynn comes off the middle rope with a tornado flatliner for another near fall, and then Williams reverses a whip attempt into a leg lock on the mat, but Jerry gets the ropes again. Doug goes up top but gets crotched. He shoves Jerry off a superplex attempt and creams him with the Revolution DDT off the middle turnbuckle. Another admonishment of the 10 count before they trade forearms, and Jerry counters the Chaos Theory into a cradle to almost take it. And then just as commentary are asking when someone is going to make that crucial mistake, Lynn reverses a corner whip. Doug pops up over him as he charges in, runs him into the buckles from behind, and gets the Chaos Theory for the win. I've liked this match since I first saw it on the night. Like, I'm a big Jerry Lynn fan. I think they have great chemistry. And I think if you're asked to imagine, in your head, picture a Doug Williams versus Jerry Lynn match, this is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite on the level of the Doug and Jody or Doug and Chris Daniels matches we've seen, but I'd still, like, even today, 3 3/4. I think this is fucking great.
This match wouldn't fall out of place on a normal Ring of Honor show.
No.
Like on at the time. It would probably be even getting more praise.
There, wouldn't
Doug, yes, and Jerry Lynn would work there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would have but it wouldn't have fallen out of place on anything on one of those just normal shows. This is brilliant. I love this. It was just incredible. There's nothing bad I can say about it because both of these two just worked so well together. Jerry's a great wrestler, and so is Doug. So, yeah, I love this so much.
I think with this match, after what's gone before it on this show, this is just like night. It's night and day in it, and as ever, Doug's Mr. Reliable with these matches that that he does have. He might not have the personality of, say, a Johnny or a Jody, but you just know what you're getting. But one of my final notes is Ron Seal.
Yeah,
does exactly what it says on the tin. And Jerry Lynn was always good, weren't he? I know he had that, that run in WWE, which was mainly on Sunday nights, and also from what was it, WWF New York, where he just going, "Whoa,
yes."
I've just searched because I wanted to see where Doug Williams was in his career at this point, and obviously, yeah, he does. So I think the same month he loses to Christopher Daniels at Glory by Honor, and then 2 days after this, he's taking on Shark Boy in All Star Wrestling.
Quite the career, Mr. Doug Williams. How old is Doug Williams here?
Well, he's 50 summit now, so 30.
So he would
29, 30.
28.
He is 30. How old's Jerry Lynn?
Ooh.
I wonder if I can work out how to spell that and make it the show title. Or maybe I'll just make it Jerry Lynn noise.
Yeah.
I would say 32, 33.
Yeah, he's probably around that 32, 33, because you think he's a backstage agent now?
Yep.
With AEW. Yep. Yeah, and they still had that run. He still had that run in ROH where he would portray Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
When he goes back and wins the belt,
Yeah. So I'd say 32, Kieran.
All right. He's 39.
Whoa! 39.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, he's 60.
Yeah.
Oh,
he keeps himself in good shape. Have I ever told you my Jerry Lynn story?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
So this was not Jerry Lynn's only FWA appearance. I think it was a show in... it would have either been Brent or it would have been Broxbourne. And it was after the show, and we packed up and we were waiting for lifts and stuff. And me and Phil Austin ended up talking to Jerry and somebody else. I think he had brought his wife with him. We're all just sitting down having a chat. And he tells us this story about how his ECW action figure has 3 nipples. Yeah. And he says he was doing this match and it's like Jerry Lynn versus Lance Storm, whatever. The match before them had been some hardcore clusterfuck weapon thing with thumbtacks involved, and the ring crew had swept the ring, but they'd missed a single tack. And in this match, he took a bump on it. It went into his chest. So he pulled the thing out and didn't think anything about it. Well, it got infected. And the next day was the laser scans for the action figures. So everybody had got themselves in great shape, got their best gear on. And he comes in there with this lump on his chest. And he said to the guys, look, I know you're scanning me, but when you get it in the computer, you can take that out, right? And they went, yeah. And then didn't. So his action figure's got 3 nipples.
Jesus Christ.
Part 1 ends with a teaser clip for part 2 of Jody Fleisch doing something we will cover shortly. And then part 2 opens with Balls Mahoney in the pink promo corridor. He says he landed at Heathrow, the customs officials searched his bags, and they found the barbed wire, the forks, and his barbed wire bat, and told him he had to turn around and go home. And he says he told them he was there for a big match against Ulf Herman, here to spread ECW violence across their island, and he says the customs official wiped himself off and let Balls go. Well, what a mistake you made, because now Ulf Herman is shitting his pants because he's got a night full of barbed wire, thumbtacks, and the hardest chair swinger in wrestling. English wrestling fans, get ready for the violence, get ready for the blood, because I'm about to baptize you all with ECW violence. I then wrote best promo on the show, but now I'm not so sure. I think it might have been Ulf.
Yeah, I think Ulf maybe just takes it. To be fair, I've never. I mean, the last time I ever saw Balls Mahoney promo was on WWE CW, and I don't even think he did many of them at that point. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel much towards Balls Mahoney, I'm afraid.
No.
Okay. No.
I
had a steel chair and a baseball bat. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was either Balls Mahoney or a shaggy dog doing the promo.
Do you remember the Woofits?
I think I do, yeah.
They were like this 80s cartoon show of bipedal dog creatures. He does look like one of them that's been on the smack.
What's it called? Woofits.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that that Disney thing that gets shown once or twice a time, which is the dog, which is the I think it might be from the
is it the dog punching out the bloke behind the desk?
Yeah, where he's like, and then he turns around and it just suddenly just.
Yep, those are indeed the woofits. Yes.
But yeah, like Balls is just it just reminds me of like that dog who just kind of like just suddenly punches the.
So match number 6, Paul Travell versus Nikita. Travell comes out with the family with their fucking flaming crosses with sparklers on the top.
I don't know whether I can say my first comment that I put on my notes.
Well, I can always bleep it or edit it out.
Was this a clan rally? Is this a fire hazard?
Yeah, nobody seemed bothered by those overtones. I think they thought the sparkler would soften it a bit.
Like the Goldberg-esque pyro on the top. Kind of.
They have their family theme tune, which is, of course, Ralph's special. It contains a line that I for some reason I really like, which is, "We have come to steal your children, break them down, and then rebuild them."
That's a good line.
Yeah. So these idiots come out with their crosses on fire, and then Nikita gets a foam machine. Travell attacks as Nikita poses on the middle rope and then fucking hurls her backwards across the ring. Spinning heel kick and an insulting slap, but she comes back with 2 big lariats, and the threat of a third sends Travell scurrying out to the floor when Nikita wipes out the whole family with a crossbody off the top rope.
Lovely, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crossbody, yeah.
With Nikita back in the ring, the family get up on the apron, surrounding her Nexus style, and the referee gets Jane Charles to announce that he's throwing them all out apart from Travell. They begrudgingly comply to the sound of the goodbye song. So Travell pulls Nikita to the floor by her foot and then attacks her as she tries to climb back in. She necks him on the top rope and goes for another crossbody, but gets caught just about and T-bone suplexed. Nick London makes some horrible sexist comments about Nikita as she kicks out of a fisherman suplex. I can see Andy's got his head in his hands. Go on.
Yeah, no, I think this was the point, Kieran and Eddie, where I thought, Nick London, Andrew Coyne, you can go and fuck off. It's basically Nick saying, now this is 2002, and attitudes to women in wrestling. It was Nick saying he wants to tie Nikita to the sink and wash his dishes. I did put, get the cops around with that comment.
It's gross, isn't it?
And the thing is, he brings it up in like another match as well. And it's like, just honestly, like, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Mark Priest, we need you, because I can't. This is how bad Andy Coyne is. I'm yearning for Priest.
I love how he's so bad. We haven't even got through the first show and you want him gone. You survived the hour of him with the Geordie, but this is beyond the pale.
He's doing way too much of this heel shtick.
It's very forced, isn't it? I think, which is half the problem. Yeah. It's all Vince McMahon, ha ha ha, laughing and that kind of thing.
The problem is he's bouncing off someone who seems to be a charisma vacuum in Giles, and I'm sorry if you're listening to it, but it's like they're just he's not bringing it. I think there's a moment that we've spoken about on one of the matches we won. Yeah, but it was the Doug Jerry match. He just shows no emotion about being excited that Doug Williams has beat Jerry Lynn, and then you've got this guy who's talking about how he wants to trap women to his sink, and it's like, I just fuck off.
Well, Nikita doesn't want to be chained to anybody's sink. She comes back with a flying head scissors, arm drags, and in a first, I think, a tornado monkey flip. Travell gets in a couple of digs to the gut, but Nikita gets a near fall off a crucifix into a sunset flip and then clotheslines him out of the ring, causing Travell to flop down right in front of a sign that says, "He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy." Travell catches Nikita as she jumps off the apron and runs her back into the post at quite some speed. And then the apron, and then he stretches her back around the post. Back inside, he hits a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker as Giles says, "Why does he have to work over her back? The back is such a vital part of a wrestler's body."
Oh, fuck off.
So
commentary.
Yeah.
It's like, mate, you're commentating on wrestling. They're supposed to hurt each other and fucking trigger bloody injury point.
Wrestling commentary for dummies. Oh, he is attacking the back. That is the most. It feels like he's been part of a video game, like the WWF SmackDown Just Bring It one, where it's like they are attacking the back. That is the most important part of the body.
Eddie, you're making it sound like Lee Carvallo's putting challenge, innit?
Yeah.
Bit by bit, we're going to have so many Simpsons references on this show.
They're all welcome. Paul drops a whole load of knees into Nikita's back, followed by a really nicely shot elbow drop off the top rope and a camel clutch. Nikita drags herself to the ropes, but takes a superbly executed Nick Gage choke breaker and then gets stampeded into the buckles and just dropped in the middle of the ring. Travell takes off a turnbuckle pad, which distracts the ref, so he can also take off the one in the opposite corner as well. He goes to do the stampede again, but Nikita slides out, runs him into the exposed steel and rolls him up. And the crowd are incensed that Coyne is busy replacing the first pad and is late to the count. Paul kicks out and hits a brutal spine buster. He goes up for the bloodshot splash, but Nikita powers up and climbs up to knee him in the head. Travell fights off a superplex and flips over her to get her into position for the best named move in the FWA, the sacrificial slam.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Outstanding. She fights out of it, gets a couple of kicks in and flattens him with a middle rope drop kick. But Travell rolls clear of a moonsault, hoiks her up again, and hits the sacrificial slam for the pin. I feel I've got to explain this move. It's kind of like a Dominator, but the opponent starts over one of Travell's shoulders, like drapes back first over one shoulder, and then he kind of whips them across his body and ends in a DDT on the other side. I've seen someone more famous do it, and I can't remember what the other name for this is. But yeah, I really like it as a move. We've said it before.
Really crisp move.
For a small man, Paul Travell's power spots are really good.
The Spinebuster was one of the best Spinebusters I've seen.
Yeah.
Again, I think I've said that before. It's a quality, crisp Spinebuster.
I like the choke breaker. I thought was excellent as well.
How do we feel about our first intergender match?
I think this was very good.
Yeah.
Half decent. Didn't have any. Once he got rid of the Muppets to the back, it turned into just like a really good wrestling match. Mm-hmm. It's like the one coming back after the break. This match, and it's decent stuff. Obviously, like Nikita's only probably been doing it a short time, hasn't she? So,
we saw her debut.
Yeah.
She's only started in 2000, and then she went away for a bit after that because she didn't think wrestling was for her.
Yeah.
Until she was kind of like taken into the FWA, yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was fine. The family only really has one good wrestler in it, so it kind of has to be
for the moment. Yes, they do. Yeah.
I mean, if this had been Nikita versus Ian Disciple, I think I would have turned this off.
That is a match I think actually happened at some point. Yeah, I like this as well. Look how much more confident Nikita is here compared to the terrible first couple of matches we saw on Transatlantic Wrestling Challenge and that bad mic work when she first showed up here. She is so much more comfortable wrestling men. And Travell's a great opponent for her. They're size-wise, they match up pretty well. He sells great for her. He makes her look really good, and he's able to throw her around as well. This is actually a rematch from the previous month at Hot Wired, which went to a no contest, which I was at. I remember that being better than this one. I remember seeing this on the night and being disappointed it wasn't as good as the one I'd seen before. But I still think it's better than Hayden Zebra and Drew and Brookside on this show. And it's better than the majority of stuff we watched on the Frontier Wrestling Portsmouth tapings.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone seems to have kind of stepped up a gear in 2002 from what the TV show's been like, I guess.
Doesn't this feel like a different company to the Portsmouth TV stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like a completely different situation we've seen.
This is kind of what I was saying in episode 1, in that every year of the FWA feels like its own separate era. Like, it changes so fast. The show stealer's voiceover plugs the website as Juventud Guerrera's music plays. And then the match that Andy, I believe, in our group chat called "This Sounds Like a Threat." Ulf Herman versus Balls Mahoney in a hardcore challenge. We have a new ring announcer for this match.
Simon Rothstein.
Was it?
It looked like it was Simon Rothstein, or whatever his name is for the FWA, for the TalkSport thing. What was his name again? Simon something?
Simon Lil's boy.
Yeah. His name is Ross. Yeah. That's interesting, because I thought this was a guy from the same Star Search thing that led to me joining the company, because they had a few that they trialed on various shows for a few months, but none of them lasted more than one go. And I don't recall seeing this guy ever again.
He just appeared out of nowhere, this guy, and I'm like...
When I first heard a man's voice, I thought, this must be John Atkins. No, it's not John Atkins.
No.
ECW superstar Ulf Herman is wearing his ECW t-shirt, carrying a chair and spitting fire. The story I heard was Balls Mahoney landed at Heathrow, was shipped up to Birmingham where he was staying with Ralph. They recorded a version of AC/DC's Big Balls for him to use as his entrance music that night. Then they came to London for the show, and this is the only time that recording was ever used.
You couldn't tell any difference, from the original.
Yeah. But this was a cover. Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, with Balls and Ralph on vocals. Because Ralph was a massive AC/DC fan. Balls has a chair too, and a barbed wire baseball bat, but they both agree to put their weapons down, shake hands and wrestle. But not before Ulf has told the crowd to shut the fuck up! And my neighbour's going to love me. And Balls uses the mic to shut down an ECW chant. He says, Heyman went bankrupt and left us all homeless. The guys paying me tonight are not ECW, it's the FWA. So if you see something you like in this match, don't chant ECW, chant FWA. Instead, they chant We Want Blood, prompting Herman to offer one guy to come in the ring so he can cut him open. It is 3 minutes from the bell to the first lock-up. So they wrestle. Ulf uses a hammerlock to drop Balls to the mat. Balls grabs the rope, fights back with a leg trip and a leg lock, as we cut to a crowd shot that contains Martin Stone, Andy Quilden, Rishi Ghosh, Raj's brother, who had become a wrestler, Dan Ambrose, who had become a referee and just a general backstage guy within loads of British places over the years. And the guy in the red t-shirt who's doing all the heckling was a guy known as Simmons Fan Club on the UKFF, who was always this lively and fun member of the crowd. And I was just like, holy shit, all of those people in the same shot. Back in the ring, Ulf fights out of a sunset flip but gets caught in another leglock takedown as FWA and Balls Can Wrestle chants break out.
Kieran, this opening, gambit where they're having a wrestling match, it just reminded me of the match I've reviewed with Matty just recently on my podcast, which was Kane and Big Show doing chain wrestling.
I remember that match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that.
Wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Herman takes advantage of an offered handshake to turn this into a brawl, but takes the Mahoney version of the flip-flop and fly punches, and then a spinning leg lariat sends them both out to the floor. Ulf smashes Balls off a bunch of railings before they spill into the crowd for a tour of the seating, and we get a glimpse of the back of my head just before they wreck the merchandise table. A problem with this segment is none of the cameramen were wrestling people, so they didn't go and follow the brawl. The two ringside they didn't even get up on the apron to get a better shot of it.
One thing I noticed here, because that's sort of like the section I generally stand in, for your call shows. And when they did catch him like gorillas in the mist, there was a gate there where they were choking him off. I was I don't think I've ever seen that gate round there.
Yeah, so they would put up barriers in York Hall. One of them was to separate the bar from the crowd because you weren't allowed to drink in your seat.
Yeah, that'd be correct. Well, they put it used to be like the big curtain.
Yeah. But before that, they had these like solid barriers, and you're right. It looks a bit like a big trellis, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so people would, when a match ended, would run to the bar, buy a pint, and sink it before getting back to their seat for the next match.
I remember that, like, first time I went to York Hall, which been about 2011, 2012, and I remember that being just like, this is fucking daft, this, isn't it? But
I think we take for granted how much better things have got.
Yeah, can you imagine it with a serving, how slow they serve at York Hall? Like, you're missing half a show.
Yeah. So Cruise, as staff, holds fans back as Herman shoves Mahoney's head through the fence thing. And we also get a very small glimpse of a young man with dyed red hair. And this, I realised today, is Ian Dewhurst, who would do some camera and editing stuff once I took over the TV production.
My favourite shot of someone helping kind of keep the punters away from the wrestlers was Elisar.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was absolutely hilarious seeing like this well-spoken Elisar career holding people like from it. It was like brilliant.
Ulf gets choked with a fire hose and they spill back over the barrier where he also gets clobbered with an umbrella. So they end up back in the ring. A lovely cloud of dust pops off Ulf as he takes the barbed wire bat to the stomach. He ducks a second swing, though, and takes possession of the bat to rake over Mahoney's forehead for blade job number 1. After Ulf bites the cut, London legitimately creases Tony Giles on commentary with, Ulf Herman just had a mouthful of balls, and I'm not feeling very good right now. Balls powers out of a sleeper, but Herman pulls his hair to drag him to the mat, and then Balls fights back with a drop toe hold onto the bat so Ulf can blade. Does the Balls jabs again and gets a 2 count off a spine buster that is not as good as Paul Travell's. He did have more weight to lift, though. Ulf is considerably bigger than Nikita. Herman slams Mahoney off the top and gets a 2 off a falling headbutt from the middle rope before they wipe each other out with simultaneous clotheslines. They then crawl over to their respective corners and come back with their chairs. And we do Duel of the Fates with the chairs. Before Herman ducks a swing and clonks Balls with his chair. And it's not super hard, though, so Mahoney doesn't really sell it. Ulf gives him a second one, which is harder, and Balls, I wrote, Balls Masato Tanaka's up. And Ulf, while he's doing this, I like, on the one side of the shot, you can see Ulf drops his chair to the mat and stamps the crease back flat and then wallops him a third time. Balls doesn't go down, but he points at Ulf, and Ulf goes, fuck you, which is enough to knock him flat. Herman covers, Balls kicks out. Can you imagine if he got the pin off that? Like, cage match would be Ulf Herman besiegt Balls Mahoney mit ein Fick Dick 1356. That's my knowledge of German for the day. Herman arguing with Linsky about the count gives Balls enough time to recover, and when he turns around, it's his turn. Shot number 1 staggers him. Shot number 2 puts him down, but he drags himself back up to fight on. And shot number 3 fucking kills him and bends the seat in half. Ulf Herman kicks out at 2. Nick London talks about what a great souvenir that chair would make for some lucky fan. A fan did indeed end up with it. Became I Got Balls chair on the UKFF and eventually became a wrestler. This is the guy who became QT McFluff rather than the guy I thought it was in the Portsmouth tapings. Right. We even see him, I think it was a guy called Craig. Like, you even see him in the front row of this show.
Yeah.
So we should also point out, it's not just like your regular chair. Balls Mahoney in ECW, if you remember, would like have like painted chairs, like with the like the company
rules.
logo. Yeah, Anarchy Rules. Yeah, like the name of the pay-per-view. And this was an FWA British Uprising Balls Mahoney chair. So Balls piles up 4 chairs, but Herman escapes the Nutcracker suite onto them, getting something resembling a reverse DDT instead. Balls kicks out. Balls punches Balls to escape a pile driver onto 2 chairs and hits the Nutcracker suite, which is a Michinoku driver because you can't have too many people using that in this company. Giles calls it the New Jersey Jam. That's the leg drop. And Herman somehow dislocates his thumb and kicks out at 2. Yeah. Bit of a mess. He also kicks out of a frog splash, but catches Mahoney when he goes for another and gets his own 2 count off a superplex. Ulf heads to the top, but gets too distracted swearing at the crowd, and he gets crotched and then banged on the head with a solid chair shot. Mahoney spreads a bag of thumbtacks all over the ring, including sticking one in his own forehead. He goes up for a superplex, but Herman flips over him. Yes, you heard me. Ulf Herman somersaults over Balls Mahoney and drives him into the tacks with a powerbomb for the pin. I think out of this combination, this was about the best you could expect. Like, the hot crowd definitely helped. The crowd are going fucking crazy for this all the way through it. I am quite happy to give this 3 1/4. Like, I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would.
I think obviously the chain wrestling at the start was a shot to the system. And then when they got rid of that, they got down to business. But I think as you was reviewing it there, Kieran, it's like, hit him with the hardest chair shot known to man, woman, and child. He kicks out at 2.
Yeah, because they're tough men.
Yeah, they're tough men, but for me, it was all right. Don't get me wrong, but I think according to Cage Match, didn't it go like 25 minutes? This
just over 20.
Yeah, and it felt every bit of that 20.
Yeah,
knock about 5 minutes off.
Yeah,
I'd probably give it a bit extra, star rate.
they did knock almost 3 minutes off between the bell and the lockup.
Well, yeah. But, I'd probably give it about 3 1/4, but better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go 3.5 and I'd stay at that. It was...
you say that like it's a bad thing. Like, that's not bad.
No, I know, but just... I don't know. I think the chain bit... It was the chain bit wrestling at the beginning. I was like, all right, okay, they're trying to show you can wrestle and stuff like that. And then, again, Tony and fucking Andy decided to, go, oh, he's doing a wrist lock. That's what you need in wrestling. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. But yeah, like, I enjoyed it. I thought, when they got to the kind of the hardcore bit, it was quite good, really enjoyable, picked up. Ulf and Balls clearly, work well, mesh well together, at least for this scene from what they're doing. Again, you could have knocked a good couple of minutes off it, and there was certain bits where they were both kind of going, that's not going to work for me, brother, I'm kicking out too. But yeah, like, I mean, a point felt like a slog, but then it did pick up, so that's why I'm kind of a bit about it, but I would have given it a 3.5. That's where I would have went.
How old is Balls Mahoney?
25.
Eddie?
I'm gonna go 32.
He's 30.
Ooh.
How old is Ulf Herman?
Oh, he was still going at 1PW in 2023, weren't he? So,
well, he's got a daughter now, so he's
got
in
a
his
daughter. She must be 20s, so he's about 35, I would say.
All respect to Bozilla and the dad of Bozilla, I'll say 32.
36.
Yeah, so one off.
I just realised we didn't do Paul Travell and Nikita, and we don't need to go through the guessing again. They are 22 and 21 respectively. Like, are you seeing like how young this card is? Like, if you knock off like the outliers who are Raj Ghosh at 17 and Drew McDonald at 47, like, how young is this card? Especially like if you look at like the top end of WWE today.
Yeah, it's sort of like a decent like football team, innit? You've got like a good spread of like young 20-year-olds, and you've got 2 old fuckers up top, Drew McDonald and Old
We didn't do it. Robbie Brookside.
How old do you think Robbie Brookside is then?
Oh,
we did this previously.
We have done it previously, I think. Yeah.
Brookside, he's early 30s. Is he early 30s? Early 30s. But add 10 years. Add 10 years on.
So you say early 40s?
I would say at this point he is 26.
Really? Robbie Brookside is 3 weeks older than North Herman. He's 36 years old.
Jesus. I thought he had one of those faces where it makes him look like he's old, but really he's just had a tough life in Liverpool. And I do think, does he get a rider where the commentary has to remind everyone that he has a pinfall victory over Chris Jericho?
It's like the one fact they know about him, isn't he? That he's pinned Chris Jericho.
And he's the tag team partner of William Regal. And it's like, oh, fuck off.
Match 8, semi-main event, a match that sold a lot of tickets.
Yeah.
Johnny Storm versus AJ Styles. So, again, TNA has just taken off. Ring of Honor has just taken off. And who is breaking out in both of those companies? AJ Styles.
Yeah.
I do like Tony Giles' fun fact. Not many people know that AJ Styles was in the dying days of WCW. I thought everybody knew that AJ Styles appeared in the dying days of WCW.
Shout out to Air Styles and Airs Paris.
Yep. He is half the size he is now, with approximately 1/16 of the hair that he has now.
Correct, yeah.
He looks like a boy band member. Like, even more than Raj Ghosh. Like, he could have been like one of the ones at the back of NSYNC easily.
Looks a different man, doesn't he?
He does, completely different. He hasn't got the tattoos, you know, it's the short shorts, it's the short hair, he's got earrings in, he looks completely different.
He would have been perfect for that, like, WCW storyline they did with that stable that was like a boy band. Not that.
Oh no, Freak Out.
Yeah, if they got serious.
Yeah, I guess he would. I called this an Apocalypse Now match because the ring is filled with smoke from entrances. We start off with we are on equal footing indie stuff. Good old standoff, and then they speed up.
One thing I was disappointed about, Kieran, was AJ not coming out to that fucking "You Are."
So that's a copyrighted track. Like, they didn't have the rights to it in the FWA, and I don't think he was even using it in TNA at this point yet.
Right.
He was using. I don't think he was using something that was I think it was an instrumental or something like of it, but I don't think he was using the actual.
Okay.
I can't
because
remember.
He had another theme song about being a proud American or something stupid, didn't he, beforehand? And this was like Ralph's attempt at, I don't know, Christian rock for him or something. Yes. What happens in this match? Yeah, so they do the indie flippy stuff. AJ takes a spinning bump off a spinning leg lariat and bails out to the floor. He gets slingshotted back in, but counters a leapfrog with a drop kick to the nuts and hits that lovely, like, kip up into a Hurricane Rana. At the time, I had never seen this before, and it blew my fucking head off.
I did forget to mention, I know it was on about theme tunes in that, but Johnny Storm's knockoff of Everybody Get Up, Sing It by Five.
Yeah.
Cracking.
Yep. That's not his best theme tune. I think his heel music is the best one, and we've got that to come.
Yeah.
The greaseball has landed. There was one comment because obviously Nick Lundgren was doing his portrait of Johnny Storm here.
Yep. So Styles teases a tope but backflips out of it, giving Storm the time to come back in with a diving Rana off the top rope. And AJ's bump off this sees him almost stuck under the bottom rope and folded in half. His bumping in this match is nuts. The greaseball has landed because Johnny follows up with his Escalera cannonball dive to the floor. And AJ takes another mad bump, this time into the railings, as Johnny catches him with a baseball slide into a swinging head scissors.
I think that both of these two, when they're taking DDTs, are the best bumps for DDTs I've seen on this entire show is from Johnny and AJ. I think at this point.
Yeah. So Storm whips AJ towards another barrier, but Styles leaps over it and cracks Johnny with a thrust kick as he runs in. Styles unfortunately then slips off the railings when going for a dive, but Johnny quickly rescues it and makes you forget it ever happened by hitting a snap suplex on the floor. Back in the ring, they do a series of rope running reversals. Storm backflips out of a German suplex and goes for an O'Connor roll, but Styles elbows him off and hits the trademark moonsault into reverse DDT.
Oh, it's got finger beauty.
Yeah. There's a bit of a mistimed drop kick I think it's because the ring is like a step smaller than AJ's used to. So he takes off. If you don't like, if Johnny had one more step to run, he'd have hit him perfectly. But he doesn't have time to extend his legs because the ring is small.
It looks like they've come together, but they're like side by side, and then he's kicking and he's bumping.
Yeah. Storm then gets flung into the laps of front row, and AJ follows in with a flip dive over the barrier as Johnny is just sitting in one of the 50-pound ringside seats.
Kieran, with this, it was from like a standing position as well.
Yeah, it doesn't even take a run up.
No, fucking wow.
People forget now, like people are so used to the AJ Styles of now, like the post New Japan AJ Styles. He's a fucking freak athlete. He was incredible.
I think one of my notes is he about 22 here? Sorry to ruin the age game.
We can play age game now. Okay, You think AJ Styles is 22, Eddie?
21 or 20.
Okay, and before I reveal anything, how old do we think Johnny Storm is?
26.
22.
They are both 25. Storm is 6 weeks older.
Wow.
Oh.
I did put like AJ just another level even at this.
Yeah.
He's already stage. He's on telly and what have you.
It feels like this is like you just could easily fit in with that time in 2004, 2005, where he was like the best wrestler on the independent scene in TNA at that time.
Oh, yeah. So he was the most in-demand, like, independent free agent at this point, and would be, like, for the next, like, 3 years. And every time he was brought over for an FWA show, he popped tickets. Like, there's a show that we'll cover in the TWC run, like, where, like, they overstuff Broxbourne. Every seat is sold, and they have to have standing there. Yeah,
I would say, I know it was many years after, but when he did PCW for the matches against Lionheart, they literally rammed about 1,200 in a Volk when it can only hold 1,000. It was that, that packed. Oh no, he's a draw.
Slip the fire marshal 100 quid and a 6-pack of beer.
Well, yeah.
Do we know it? So the thing is, you were talking about how like FWA is on a shoestring budget this time. We're kind of running in essence on a shoestring budget. Were they working with other promotions to bring in AJ Styles, or was it just kind of cheap flights at this time? Or
no. I mean, he wasn't as established as he would be. Obviously, I am sure they worked out some kind of deal with somebody. The way they managed to book AJ Styles, I believe, was not through the way you would normally think. Tony Giles was an early adopter of Xbox Live, and he would play video games online with AJ Styles, and they bonded over being wrestling fans. The other person he used to play online games with at this point, you won't guess in a million years, so I'm just going to tell you, Kane. Tony Giles and Kane would play WWE Raw together across the internet in 2002, 2003 on the Xbox. So yeah, Tony and AJ ended up becoming really good friends.
That's
wow.
I mean, I know that AJ's always seen himself and been as the kind of video game guy, but that's incredible.
Yeah. I was half expecting you to say Drew McDonald then.
Do you think Drew McDonald knows what an Xbox is?
What is this Crash Bandicoot?
Apparently, he's also now lives in Ukraine. So. We were talking about a wrestling match. Right, I'm going to put the boot into Andy Coyne, Nick London, whatever the fuck. The girly facial features of the UK man known as Johnny Storm. Shut up! From outside the ring, Linsky counts a terrible cover where AJ is clearly pressed against the ropes. But I know. Like, all three people should have known better at this point. Arguably, Johnny can do the least about it. But, everybody should know better than this.
It's just a bit where it's like AJ looks like he's like trying to like push into him or something. It is like it just
I did notice like his covers in general for the most part are a bit weird in this match. I just wonder if he's just been taught a strange technique somehow. So there's a bit of striking before Storm connects with his wheelbarrow DDT. He runs up the turnbuckles, but AJ follows him up and pretty much throws him into the opposite corner with a German suplex off the top rope.
There's so much of this match where your jaw is dropped by just how incredibly talented.
I was there live.
Very envious.
I'm trying to remember if I'd ever seen like AJ Styles on video before this match, and I don't know if I had. It wouldn't have been much anyway.
Is this his debut in the UK, I assume?
So all of the imports, this is their first ever UK matches. Like this was a big hook for this. And in fact, this is the only ever FWA appearance of Balls Mahoney. Yeah, so this is his only UK independent wrestling appearance ever.
That's wild.
We have gone way off topic. We have rewound back to Balls Mahoney, where we should be.
Back to Jerry and AJ. Because again, it's for for this being his first ever UK match. That is selling yourself for like a ton of bookings and a ton of going forward.
Yeah. He does this drop kick in the corner where he uses Storm's chest as a springboard to backflip back out again, and then mashes him with a discus lariat as he comes out of the corner. Like, small guys shouldn't be able to do clotheslines this good. So Storm fights back with some punches, but gets caught dropping his head too early for a backdrop and gets hauled up into the Styles Clash position. Again, this is the hottest move in the world. Like, nobody... I mean, we've seen Jack Xavier do it. This was the point where he was asked not to do it anymore. The Xaviator becomes a completely different move. I think, as I mentioned before, 3 different moves in Jack Xavier's arsenal got named the Xaviator. So yeah, anyway, Johnny tries to scramble his way free of this, like pulling himself up the ropes, but Styles spins him around into a powerbomb. Johnny takes a basement drop kick in the corner, right in the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
But avoids a second attempt at that springy one, sending AJ into one of those suicidal bumps Psychosis used to do. And as Styles is crawling up the buckles, drop kicks him in the back so he bangs his head on the middle turnbuckle. Storm tries a slingshot sunset flip, but AJ counters by standing up as Johnny goes over his head and turns it into an air raid crash for a 2 count. Johnny fights out of a back superplex attempt, turning the situation into an avalanche poison Rana. His cover, though, is only an exhausted hand on the chest, so AJ kicks out. They trade strikes and start running the ropes again. Johnny ducks a clothesline, but AJ avoids a moonsault off the middle rope that Storm goes for in response. Storm lands on his feet, gets German suplexed, and immediately rolled over into the fuckbuster, but kicks out. Just waiting for Andy to pick up on that.
Fuckbuster.
There we go. Yeah, it's what. So I watch like New Legacy stuff on YouTube. That's what they call it. It's where it looks like he's going for a back suplex, but then whips him down into like the face first thing.
Ah, right.
Yeah, they came up with so they came up with the name Fuckbuster for it, and it just stuck. It makes me laugh. So it's the Fuckbuster. Storm rolls clear of the spiral tap, but gets caught halfway through the Super Rewind Rana. It looks like it's all going to get turned into a Styles Clash, but Johnny lays in a couple of punches and fucking whips AJ over in a Hurricane Rana. This is young Rey Mysterio. It's so fast and so violent. Styles gets control back, but wipes out Linsky with his feet on a tornado DDT, and this is the most athletic Steve Linsky bump you will ever see. He fucking... he looks like Rikishi taking a clothesline as he spins and rolls out of the ring. Johnny sets up AJ on the top turnbuckle for a Frankensteiner, but it gets turned into a middle rope Styles Clash. No Linsky means no count. AJ collects 1 ring to fool them all from the outside and goes up to try it again, but instead opts for a military press off the second rope, which Storm turns into a DDT in midair and flops onto Styles to get the pin. If you like early 2000s indie flippy shit, this is the match for you. Live, this was mind-blowing. Like, these two have great immediate chemistry. The pace is crazy. Like, there are no holds in this match. Styles is doing stuff that nobody else in the world is doing at this point, and they tear the house down. Like, standing ovation at the end, match of the night, 4.5. I still think this is great.
I think this is one of them matches you probably need to go and have a sit down after, wouldn't you? You know, if
like,
you're in the
fucking
building.
hell, like you need a cigarette and a cold shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think myself, I think this is obviously he had the Doug and Jerry Lynn match before, and which is a bit of an outlier in the first half, but this is where the show picks up in it. Fuck me. 4.25. I've gone for this. Even though it's a 20-odd-year-old match, you can just see young AJ. Oh, we were cracking at the time, weren't it? And you can see why.
This is where wrestling is now in some cases. Like, this is so ahead of its time. And, like, you can call it a spot fest if you want. I don't give a fuck if it's a spot fest. They're doing it so well. They're like, we'd mentioned there were a couple of moments like with the drop kick that didn't go to plan and like the barrier not cooperating for the springboard thing. But like, who cares?
The thing with the barrier, you can sort of excuse him that because them barriers look fucking flimsy, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's just terrible. But once again, it shows with this match that there's a reason why they stuck all the imports against Johnny, Jody, or Doug.
Yeah, that would change later on a bit as other people came through. But yeah, they were obviously the go-tos. Yeah,
top notch for me.
Mm-hmm. This is not the best AJ Styles match in the FWA. There's a better one to come. Eddie?
4.5. Brilliant. Quality. I think everything about this works so well. The botch on the barrier kind of gets made up for when he does the suicide dive. The suicide dive is quality. There's certainly like Johnny Storm there was a line which I did enjoy from commentary with like Johnny Storm is using ring smarts, which I thought was quite good. But yeah, I thought this was...
Which is commentary code for he moved out of the way.
Yeah. He moved out of the way. But this was quality, and I think they've had... So there's 2 other matches they have after this. One in Ring of Honor and one PWG.
They do also have an FWA rematch.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't realise that. I just remember there was number 2. But... and it's good to show they have that type of chemistry that kind of starts this off. And as I said, it's the reliable hands that get the imports, not, your Brandon Thomases and Ian Disciples.
You imagine Ian Disciple against AJ Styles.
What do you think that man of God AJ Styles thinks about the family? With their T-shirts with the upside-down crosses on, and their flaming crosses, and their religious imagery.
I bet that were interesting that evening, weren't it?
Given that there is a famous promo from, is it PWG, where it turns out he has never heard the Austin 316 promo and thinks that his opponent, who is quoting that, is blaspheming.
He's imagine him coming back, him peeking from the curtain and watching that entranceway and thinking, "What on earth have I gone into?"
Yeah, well, you didn't hate it too much because he came back several times.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, I think this is for someone who's obviously been the most highly touted free agent in the kind of market at the moment. It's quality stuff, and it's very, very good. I loved it.
We get a quick ad for FWA VHS tapes. 50% of this is for the tape you're already watching. And then our main event, Jody Fleisch versus Flash Barker in a ladder match for the vacant FWA British Heavyweight title. So, this needs a bit of a recap. At Urban Legends, March 22nd, Flash Barker beat Doug Williams for the title in an absolute mess of a match. It's one of those ones where the heels keep changing the rules. So, Tony Scarlo, Dino's dad, is the referee. Mick McManus is the timekeeper. Doug gets the pin, and the heels all rush the ring announcer to announce that this is an old school match, so it's 2 out of 3 falls. So the gimmick was, sorry, I should have mentioned that Doug had agreed to, quote, an old school wrestling match. As Doug is looking like getting his second fall, the bell rings and they announce that it's actually rounds and that was the end of round 2. It's all of that kind of shit, right? Flash wins. I was there. It's on YouTube, and it was just as dreadful watching it back 22 years later as I remember it being in the building. If you think Flash Barker versus Doug Williams, you think it's probably going to be good, right?
Yeah.
This was absolute fucking guff. This is dreadful.
I was half expecting you to say that they got Mick McManus's boot polish for his hair and like rubbed it in Doug's eyes and it blinded.
What a gimmick that would be. He'd look like something out of Mad Max, wouldn't he?
Can I quickly just ask, without being threat of the man listening to this podcast and hunting me down, where is Dino at this point? Has he just disappeared, I take it?
He is out of the old school for reasons I can't remember. Oh, Alan told us when he came on. Mark Priest was brought back for one night as an authority figure to fire Dino Scarlo.
Ah, okay.
Yes, I remember. And as I said, I think I was at that show, which is probably means it was the one in June, which I don't remember anything about, and there's no footage of online.
Right, okay, that's fine then.
So, at No Surprises 4, Johnny Storm beats Justin Richards to become the number 1 contender, and as per the pre-show stipulations, Justin Richards has to leave the FWA.
Aww.
Drew and Flash come out and they give Richards a spike tombstone to send him on his way. Again, this is part of the pile driver ban. Turning babyface on the way out, and get ready, Eddie, retire Justin Richards. The headset has come off.
Leave the memories
Oh, no.
alone. I want you to stay.
Well, this will be my last appearance on the pod. It's a pleasure to have you on here.
It was, in fact, his last ever FWA match. He would do stuff with the Academy, but he would never wrestle main roster FWA again, and would, in fact, not wrestle again at all for another 18 months.
Okay.
Flash defeats Scott Parker in the main event with the help of new old school member Mark Sloan. Oh, I didn't explain how that came about. Fucking hell. All right. So, No Surprises 4. We have a teacher versus student match. Mark Sloan versus James Ty. At the end, the old school come out and they say they're very impressed with James Ty. He's got that old school spirit in him. They want him on their side. And he turns them down. And like they try again and he turns them down again. And they say, well, you're no match then for our new member, and it's Mark Sloan. That's how Mark Sloan ended up in a limo earlier on. In the main event of No Surprises 4, fucking hell, Flash defeats Scott Parker with the help of Mark Sloan, and after the match, the old school beat down Parker and chop off his long hair.
Wow.
Ayers rants on the mic about how the old school have outsmarted everyone when Jody Fleisch's music hits. So, on the TalkSport show the night before, Vicky Demonfort and Dean Ayers agree on a stipulation that if Fleisch, who was on kayfabe tour with Michinoku Pro at the time, in actual fact that tour was like 3 weeks later, if he can get to the building before the final bell of the show, he would get an on-the-spot title match. He shows up immediately after the match and beats Flash in about 3 minutes to become the champion. However, the story went that Dean Ayers claimed that Jody didn't make it back before the bell signifying the end of the Parker match, rendering the Fleisch match null and void, whereas Demonfort then argued that another bell was rung after Jody beat Parker and the wording of the agreement was the final bell of the show.
This entire segment of you explaining this is like the scene in Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie's trying to explain Pepe Sylvia and who Pepe Sylvia is, and it's like all these like triangles and squares of like going this happened.
So I've not seen that show. Is that the red lines where he's going fucking crazy and there's like the red wall all over the wall? And yes, that is what it feels like. Right, this is what happens when Alex Shane takes over the book. Okay. Like, No Surprises is very much the end of Mark Sloan booking the FWA and it being a Mark Sloan company. There is the transitional period, which is the bit between then and Uprising. And Uprising is, I am Alex Shane, this is my wrestling. So, I'm sweating. We get a legal impasse and a ruling is made that the title is vacant and Jodie and Flash will battle for it at Uprising in a ladder match. The wrinkle on the way is that Johnny Storm had been promised a title shot at Hotwired for sending Richards packing at No Surprises. So the Barker Storm match goes ahead, but with the winner going into the Uprising main event. So if Storm had won, the fans would get the Johnny versus Jodie ladder match they've been clamouring for a year. Flash wins what I remember as being a pretty decent match, so it's Jodie Fleisch versus Flash Barker. That's how we get here. Holy shit. Right, so the belt lowers from the ceiling, and Flash gets some very nice ramp pyro, but also Nikita's foam machine for some reason. AS is posing on the middle rope as Jodie's music starts, and Jane Childs tells Andy Coyne to go and tell him to get down because Fleisch has got the cane corner pyro. Coyne takes the mic and effectively does a second ring introduction. This is stupid for 3 reasons. He's better than the regular ring announcer. He has exactly the same voice as commentator Nick London because he is commentator Nick London. And I would hope that Mr. Sideburns would agree with this. Referees shouldn't be doing the intro. This has annoyed me for 22 years.
I've put that Andy Coyne's voice sounds so much like Nick London and Dean AS. I wish I got this amount of mic time as a ref.
Not much calls to do promos, no?
No, I think I only ever had to say no. I didn't want to referee a match because I was feared for. I feared for my life. This is one of the things when you were telling me that Andy Coyne is Nick London. And then I saw this bit and I saw him have the mic and I was like, wait a minute, if you're watching this VHS
right,
and you're smart enough, you're going to put 2 and 2 together here. And it's like, what is he doing?
You can only hear Nick London at this point. Wait till they bring him out as an on-screen character.
Oh, no. at least Kieran, with like UWA, weren't it? Steve Linsky was an American.
Yeah.
Weren't it?
Yes, and Simon Bridlington was English.
Commentator, weren't he, as well?
Yes.
Simon Bridlington. Yeah. So you could distinguish which is which. With this, you're like, the Spider-Man GIF, innit?
Yeah.
It's like if if Jimmy Barnett ever met James Smallman.
They also had him do this at the start of the title match at No Surprises, and also the same as the title match at No Surprises. He throws Dean Ayers out and gives him to the count of 10 to leave. We covered the reasons why earlier on.
I do agree with you, Star Quickly. He is way too charismatic for a referee with the way he's like talking.
Right, like he does it like a ring announcer. Although I do quite like him getting to 9. Dean is only halfway up the ramp, so he gives him 9.5.
Yeah, I like that bit.
So a match starts. Oh, by the way, Dean has to leave because like he's threatened with Flash like forfeiting the match, therefore not getting the title if he doesn't go. This starts out fast, but like a wrestling match. So it's kind of like a wrestling match that gets a ladder introduced into it rather than it just being ladder, ladder, ladder. When they do lockups, Flash powers Fleisch across the ring and we quickly establish big strong heel versus small quick baby face. I did note, for a barrel on legs, Flash can't half-run the ropes quick. He's like fucking Masato Yoshino at points in this. God, he can go. Jodie slips out of a long military press, throws Phil over the top rope, but Barker simply steps away from a flip dive and Fleisch just bumps on the floor. Thankfully, unlike cheapo Rev Pro, FWA would put mats on the floor of York Hall.
Yeah,
that suicide dive reminded me of like Wrestle Kingdom Trent Beretta dive, where he just kind of dives and then it's like
pretty much
flat. Also, there's a bit just quickly before this where I think Flash puts him in a submission hold and asks and says tells the ref ask him.
Yeah,
and then the commentary brings it up and goes ask him what, Flash?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
dumb.
Jody then takes his second sick Cactus Jack bump in a row, getting suplexed onto an upright guardrail before getting chucked back in the ring and stomped all over. Flash channels his inner Yokozuna with a long nerve hold as London talks about Flash knocking people out with his iron fist punch. He's kind of moved away from that, though. Like, he hasn't had the glove on for months. What he does have on is a lot of thick, obvious padding on his forearms.
He's very much from the Ahmed Johnson school of thick padding, isn't
it? Yes. A quick question for Mr. Sideburns. In a ladder match, is there any need for a referee to be in the ring?
No, not really.
Like ringside to rule a winner, and for making sure things are going all right and to give them time cues maybe, but there's no reason for a referee to be standing in the ring during a ladder match.
No, I mean, I think I've only ever refed one tag team ladder match. I think we just all stood outside. I mean, the only other time you would have a ref in the ring would be to hold the ladder up, depending on, what type of ladder the promoter's got.
I feel same about battle royals. No referee should be in the ring for a battle royal. Unless you're
unless
doing
it's the reverse.
We are not doing reverse battle royals. So Jody breaks out of the nerve hold, hits Hurricane Rana, but is almost immediately turned inside out with a cracking clothesline. Giles tries once to get London to call Jody Fleisch instead of Flash, but it doesn't go in, so he just gives up.
Well, the thing is, on one of the promotions, they did call him Jody Flash, weren't it?
Yes. Yeah. UWA, he was Jody Flash.
Yeah.
But Andy Coyne didn't work there.
Yeah.
Jody reverses a corner whip, but gets boosted onto the top rope when he charges in. He backflips off to his feet, jumps onto Barker's shoulders, and then spins around into a Rana and clotheslines Flash out the ring to hit, Jesus Christ, the springboard shooting star press. And Flash catches this perfectly.
Yeah.
Flash rams, he recovers, he rams Jody's back into the apron and then goes and collects a ladder. He gets it in, but he has to catch his breath halfway through. And unfortunately, he's standing with one leg either side of it, and Jody leaps up and seesaws it into his balls. Tony Giles says Flash Barker has more experience in matches like this, and then not 30 seconds later says he doesn't think Flash has ever had a match like this before. This show is taped.
Yeah. Did you see the moment where, I think it might have passed, where Gadge gets involved because Fleisch lands in his lap?
Oh, yes. Yeah. He gets thrown into the laps of many of our friends. Barker comes back with a baseball slide dropkick into the ladder, and then when Jody tries the same thing, Barker lifts it up like it's a portcullis for him to slide under, and then runs backwards with it to smash it into Fleisch. This is where he ends up in Gadge's lap.
Yeah.
Andy Coyne, Ross Jordan, and Elisar Cabrera are all gesticulating for the fans to steer clear as Flash sets up a ladder bridge between the rail and the apron with two chairs on top, which Nick London calls a platform of death. Barker counters a tornado DDT to place Jody on the apron, but gets kicked in the head and then suplexed onto his own construction. Coyne tries to get in between the overeager cameraman and Flash getting his blade out, but doesn't quite manage it. And then Fleisch pops Barker in the forehead with the top of the ladder to give him an excuse to cut himself open. Jody takes apart a section of railing and sets up a ladder near the back of the floor seats and then climbs up and hits, I can see two shaking heads, an incredible moonsault, not off the balcony, off the railings of the balcony, like the highest point you can stand on in York Hall.
Question for you, Kieran, here.
Yes.
And I might have been getting it mixed up with another balcony spot in York Hall. This isn't the one that got wrestling fucked off from there, was it?
No, and it also wasn't that other balcony dive that got wrestling chucked out of York Hall. It was something else.
Yeah.
They were threatened with it after this and promised they would never do it again. And then they did it again and were threatened with it again.
Yeah.
And were told, no, we didn't know they were going to do that. We're not going to do it again. And then they did something else that got wrestling banned from York Hall for 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. if you've heard Andy Quilden talk, like when he was in negotiations to run York Hall, they would still bring up the balcony dives and the other thing that got wrestling kicked out of York Hall almost 10 years later.
Yeah.
This, we've got sidetracked. This is one of the craziest and best remembered spots in the whole history of the FWA.
It's probably the most replayed, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, I put it in the opening of the TV show. So it will play every week on there. It just, like, the crowd go fucking insane for good reason. There was a time when on a hard drive, I had every camera angle of this.
Yeah.
For, like, putting into music videos and stuff. Yeah, it's amazing.
When we were on about balcony spots, I would just one come to me then when I seen in the Electric Ballroom, Will Ospreay did it.
Yes,
did like a bloody balcony dive, and I don't think he told anyone about it. Yeah, I remember that one.
So Jody sets up a table on the ramp side, but Flash has recovered, possibly because Crew E's also took half of this moonsault. And he whips Jody hard into the railings. And finally, we get a ladder fully in the ring. We cut to a disgustingly dirty and out of focus camera as the two of them meet at the top of the ladder. Jody gets in a couple of punches and from the very top hits a sunset flip powerbomb. It looked like it killed both of them. Flash, again, somehow recovers and hits one of the best, fastest, most devastating looking Michinoku drivers I think I've ever seen. Like, spiked him like he was a fence post. Barker leans the ladder into a corner, but Jody's drop toe holds him into it, and then runs up it into a moonsault. Flash tries to reverse a corner whip, but Flash re-reverses it to run him face first into the ladder, and like effectively the Sergeant Slaughter bump over the corner out of the ring. Jody goes out after him and ends up taking another crazy bump over the railings. Flash climbs the ladder in a corner, but gets swatted off it. It was only on my second viewing of this, like this time to take my notes, I noticed. He gets swatted off it with a chair right in the face. Can't get his hands up, nothing. Just takes the seat in the nose. They climb back up, and Flash German suplexes Jody off the top of the ladder. Barker repositions the ladder and tries to drag him back up for something else, but Jody punches him in the dick and then retreats to the apron. He goes for a springboard Rana, but Flash leaps out from the ladder to counter it into a powerbomb in midair. Unfortunately, physics and tiredness kind of get the better of them, as Flash basically gets an arse in the face and gets flattened, and Jody lands on the back of his neck. Like, this is not pretty at all. Barker sets up another ladder and chair bridge contraption at ringside and powerbombs Flash onto it. Coin tries to stop him coming off the top rope onto the pile, but gets kicked in the face. Hooray! Before Barker crushes Jody with a flipping senton off the top rope. This isn't something you see. Flash Barker going to the top like this, says Tony Giles, who obviously didn't see him do it at Revival or on that TV episode where he just flew onto Jody and two rows of people. As London prattles on about kidneys flying all over the place, York Hall erupts into a chant of "fuck the Hardys." An absolutely knackered Barker flings Jody back into the ring and gestures to the back. Monkey Boy Mark Sloan comes pelting out, lays some kicks into Flash, and produces a pair of handcuffs. He cuffs Jody to the top rope in position for Flash to kill him with a chair. Jody dodges, Flash hits the top rope, and then Jody leaping kicks the chair into Flash's face. Sloan goes to check on Barker, and then a meaty hand slaps him on the shoulder. Never fear, the show stealer is here. Stop it. I'm glad this isn't a video podcast. Sloan's reaction, I thought, was really good because his little monkey brain processes that the only two people that should be in the ring are on the ground, and then he turns around into the one-night stand. Alex was supposed to get the key and uncuff Jody, but Flash doing the kicking the chair into Flash's face has broken the handcuffs. So instead he escorts Sloan backstage, giving him the Homer Simpson U2 beating along the way. Make sure he gets the help he needs. Barker brings a second ladder into the ring and sets up both. He climbs one, Jody climbs the other, and Barker hits the flash in the pan, which remember is the roll the dice off the ladders.
Cool, this, weren't it?
He moves the ladders to the middle of the ring, and once again they climb one each. Near the top, they trade punches, and Flash shoves Jody's ladder. Flash, though, stops his momentum by putting a foot on the top rope, pushes back, shoves Barker over the top rope through the table that was set up about 20 minutes ago, climbs up to take the title. They try to disguise it by starting with some wrestling, but for the most part, this is just a series of crazy ladder spots.
Mm.
And I will say, apart from a couple, they all go pretty well.
Yeah.
Both of them work super hard. Flash takes a fucking beating in this match. I've seen this match loads over the ensuing 22 years. It wasn't until this time round I realised he is working his arse off to put Jody over and is just getting smashed into everything. Like, I completely understand why he had those big pads on his arms. Like, he's getting wrecked with he goes through the table, he gets suplexed onto the ladder bridge, he gets a chair in the face twice because of the kick as well. Like, he really put in a performance in this thing.
Doesn't be the best bump of the night, which was the ref getting kicked so hard that he fell out the ring.
The ref gets kicked so hard he turned into a commentator. My major criticism, though, is that I think they do the balcony moonsault far too early.
Mm.
That is such a big spot. That should be saved towards the end, and they do it in the first half. Imagine, though, having to go out and follow that AJ versus Johnny Storm match.
Yeah.
Overall, I think this is exactly what the crowd wanted out of this. I think it's better than 3.5, but I can't give it 3 3/4, so I'm going to give it 3 2/3. It's not good enough to be a 4-star match, but it's not.
I'd give it 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I used to. I think years ago I did. And I think probably on the night I thought it was the best thing in the world.
Probably because you come desensitized to ladder matches, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, don't forget, we've had like an additional 22 years of just an additional 22 years of wrestling becoming more and more like kind of crazy spot based, I guess. But like, what I really can't fault is how hard they work.
Yeah. I think for myself, like you said about following up after that AJ match, it's a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
You'd expect the crowd being like, right, we need about 5 or 6 minutes to, catch our breath and then go into that. But
and I guess that's probably kind of, like what all the bit with AS is at the beginning and, them starting out with wrestling rather than just going into the spots. Like, that is your come down.
Yeah.
And also, this has the emotional investment in it. This is the culmination of a story. And it has the title. Like, AJ versus Johnny Storm, that's just a dream match. That's there for snowflakes, right? Whereas this is the season finale of Old School versus New School. Like, the Old School are dead after this.
Yeah, I would say as well. You're right about Flash Barker. He holds up his end of the bargain and tries to make Jody look like a star. Jody Flash, you put him in the same bracket as your Johnnies and your AJs as great flyers at the time. The flash in the pan, I love that because that can go so wrong. That because it's on a turn, he could easily catch his leg in one of the rungs of the ladder, and it could all go to cock.
And we saw what happened when he did it on the untrained guy from Dirty Sanchez, who went the wrong way and nearly tore his own head off.
Yeah. But it's maybe a step below the AJ match, but it's 4 stars, and I bet on the evening at your call, if you're leaving that building, you're skipping to it. Well, it wouldn't have been the Dundee Arms; it would have been the Salmon and Ball, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I thought this was. I'd say 3.5, 3.75 maybe at best. It is the story of the show more than anything, I think. It's had the most build up during the show. you know what you're getting with Jodie, and you know what you're getting with Flash at the moment from what we've seen. So yeah, I thought this was really good. I got flashbacks to that horror injury, even though it's not happened yet, when Jodie hit the shooting star press to the outside.
King of Europe.
King of Europe.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought, a great combination to a story. Everyone did what they needed to do. It kind of relinked back to the Alex Shane and Mark Sloan bit. I think I also put how has Mark Sloan went from mid-card mediocrity to the main event kind of lackey bit. It just felt
but he's not in the main event. He's just he's Barker's lackey.
Oh yeah, but it's it's fucking he's the what's that guy with no neck? James Ellsworth character of this whole
thing. in a way, Eddie, it's right, Alex, here's the pencil, but now you've got the pencil, you need to put me in a main event spot. So it's
I will give you the pen. In exchange, you put me in at least the main events that you have of your WWE Raw fantasies. But yeah.
So having seen it for the first time, how do you feel about this show as a whole, Eddie?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. There was, the only thing that fell flat for me was the tag match, but that was kind of overall what to expect.
But that was an angle.
Yeah,
really
in essence. Yeah. But it was, don't get me wrong, I got to see Bart show, so I was overly excited about that. But this was the TWA stuff. The worst match of the show, I would say, is Brookside and Drew. But as you said, it seems like that's what it was there for. But yeah, it was like when we watched that. What was it? The show we watched, which was Crunch, and we just finished watching the TV.
Oh,
and
right,
it felt like a completely different environment to what that was. This felt like, again, a completely different stage of this company than what we've seen before, and I enjoyed it. And it was probably one of their biggest crowds that they had.
Yeah, so the legend was always 1,000 to 1,100. The reality was more like 800. If you look towards the beginning, there are a lot of empty seats by the stage.
Right.
But the people that were in there were fucking hot for all of this.
Nothing ever felt not interested other than the TWA match. But it was all good. It was really enjoyable. Really fun. And the AJ versus Johnny Storm match is probably one of the best matches I've seen. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, there's not much shit except for fucking Brookside and Drew McDonald. Obviously, seeing the Newbury getting battered was a plus for me.
5 stars.
5 stars. You've got a couple of good undercard matches with Nikita and Paul Travell and the opening freeway. And then you've got the 3 matches, which were probably the main attraction for people in the building that evening, all delivered, didn't they? AJ and Johnny's the best of them, but don't discount, going back and watching, especially Doug and Jerry Lynn.
Yeah.
Proper wrestling, that stuff. And the main event, serves a purpose. Lots of flips. Jody doing his fucking manic diving. Yeah, total thumbs up for me. Maybe we'd probably had the best match of this whole run with AJ and Johnny Storm.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I still think this is really good. Everything just comes together. As we've said, apart from Drew and Brookside, everyone puts in a shift as well. Even though the Vanson and Zebra Kid match is messy because they can't figure out a story to go through it and they're just doing moves at each other, they're working hard. I think I could easily recommend 5 or 6 of the 9 matches on this show. I think they're worth watching, as well as the virtual segment, at which point you might as well just watch the Pitbulls kill Ash as well. The FWA essentially put on a pay-per-view quality show here, with production that nobody else in the country was doing at the time. If I'm going to complain about that, I think the camera lenses could all have done with a wipe, and the editing needed to slow down a bit, because this cuts very fast. But again, nobody was shooting shows this well in the UK, or in fact, outside of WWE and TNA, the US at this time. Like, yeah, Ring of Honor had all the great wrestling, but their tapes looked like ass.
Correct. With a hoop in the background.
The commentary is fucking dreadful, however.
Yeah.
It is appalling. So, I mean, to close off the show, which I probably should have done before we wrapped it up like that, all the baby faces flood the ring to celebrate. AJ's golf visor thing that he's wearing is hilarious. And Jody and Alex do a dueling. AJ, was it Jody Fleisch is the new FWA champion? There's 2 things you can do about it. So there we go. We did ask for people to send us their memories of this show. I've gathered a few. Do you know the Grado story?
No.
Sort of, on and off.
So a young Grado and his dad came all the way down from Scotland for this. They spent the whole night driving around East London trying to find York Hall, but missed the whole show and just went home again. And he promptly renamed himself the Lost Scot on the UKFF. Our buddy Brennan Corrigan, so he did a couple of years ago, he did the 20th anniversary thread of this. I've taken all of this from that. He knows I do this with this stuff. Tickets were much more expensive than other British wrestling, but Alex Shane's idea was premium pricing gave the impression of a premium product, and that smart/internet fans would be willing to travel and pay more for a product that was more suited to their interests.
Yeah.
Does this sound like anybody's current pricing models?
I think in a way it does, because, like, you know, for the big shows at York Hall, especially like the one with MJF on, it was £90 to £100 for front row.
Yeah.
And I think even like the lower level stuff nowadays, as a fan, as a traveling fan to these shows, you're expecting, if they're charging less than 15 quid, you're thinking, not for me.
Yeah. At the time, this was controversial. People were up in arms about £50 front row tickets.
Wow.
But that 50 quid, that contained the ringside seat, a meet and greet Polaroid photo, which Ben had with Jerry Lee and Jody Fleisch in the FWA title, a gold printed FWA event t-shirt that was exclusive to the gold ringside package, and a free program and free event poster.
50 quid. Wow.
Yeah.
That's standing in the Electric Ballroom nowadays.
Yeah. And when they went on sale, these packages were the first things to sell out. The loyal fans wanted this. Mm-hmm. Ben also said, while this had been my first pure FWA event, I took the decision then and there to try and attend as many of their shows as I could. And I did. From an anonymous friend, I sat with a guy I knew from the UKFF. It was at his house I saw the first Ring of Honor show on a pirate VHS, and through him I first went to the FWA in Walthamstow earlier in the year. By Frontiers of Honor, which he had brought some local friends to, I'm pretty sure he was high on coke the majority of the weekend, and he dropped off the face of the earth sometime in 2004, bar one appearance at an IPW show that originally had advertised Necro Butcher. Duncan Burdett on Twitter said, an excellent card. Although I hate three-way matches with a passion now, I hadn't reached that point yet and thought the opener was fantastic. Likely my favourite match on the show. That or Doug versus LYNN. AJ Styles made quite an impression also. I still have my event shirt somewhere. Andrew Carberry on Twitter said, for the first FWA show I attended, sat in the balcony with an old work colleague known as Dodgy Dave. Thought Jody was ahead of his time in the main event, and favourites of the FWApod, the new breed, were absolutely torn a new one by a beastly Paul Burchill. And Graham Hughes, the trainee/wrestler we mentioned before, he says, I watched the entire main event from up in the roof. Yes, the roof. Myself and another trainee were the ones who lowered the belt down for the main event. Terrifying, but awesome at the same time.
I was thinking, when you said Graham Hughes' name, I thought, is it like a transport company, like logistics?
He was a very nice man who moved to New Zealand and set up wrestling schools and promotions in New Zealand.
All right. Wow.
Yeah. And we also got a reply from RJ Singh when we asked, do you have any memories of British Uprising? He said, yes, holding the ladder for Jodie. So there we go. That is our extremely long show on British Uprising. I can see that both of my colleagues here are practically dead and falling asleep.
I'm wide awake, man.
I hope we have given Andy a good birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
Eddie, would you like to tell people where they can find you if you want to be found, anything you've got going on, that kind of thing?
Yeah, you can find me on Eddie Sideburns on the Twitter, 5-Star Wrestling Sideburns. Currently have, the only thing I can plug is again, I think I did last time, the Bishamon podcast I did with Sheriff Lone Star and Smark Infested. You can also find me potentially going on about creating a wrestling company, which, just to make you aware, our 17,896 man tournament is still ongoing with looking for people.
I think it's been cut from the 2.5 million it was last month.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was a lot of logistics errors that we kind of looked into. Our wrestling ring has maybe gone missing in Berkshire, I'm not sure, or Blackburn. One of those begins with a B. Yes, that'll be taking place again, still across all the continents. We just need to get the wrestlers down. And that'll be going forward in the year 3464. I will still be alive somehow by the magic of science. Other than that, you can find me on the Twitter, and that's about it. But yeah, thank you.
Cool. And Andy, what about you?
Yeah, so follow us on Twitter, Oggy Part 3. The podcast to do, Graps and Claps. Follow at GCP Podcast 1. We've got plenty of reviews on their live show reviews. We've also had recently the latest episode of Muck with Matty Edwards, where we look back at Kane's May 19 storyline. Wow. Including the technical wrestling masterclass between Kane and the Big Show, which we actually review on that show. I've also recently been on Grapple's Patreon as we look back at some of the, well, you wouldn't say the best matches in British wrestling history, but, you know, there's some like hidden gems there, including Les Kellett and Leon Harris, which has finally turned Benno into a World of Sport fan. So
I wouldn't go that far.
So you can go to Grapple's Patreon, which is like 9-10 quid a month, and very much worth your while getting it. And they do a lot of content over there. And yeah, no, that's everything from me. And I've also got my football podcast, Groundhops Pod. And go and follow it on Twitter. Only a couple episodes at the moment. It's just a as and when thing that on the side.
Alrighty. You can find everything to do with this show at linktr.ee/FWApod. We are on Twitter and Blue Sky at FWApod and Instagram at FWA.pod. As for me personally, my Twitter is locked. Don't follow me. Fuck off. What I did forget to do last month and will do this month is plug my former Must See Matches partner Mark Buckledy's new podcast, Disc World Order. It's not about wrestling, it's about the Discworld books, which he's going through in order. I was the guest on episode 1. Our multi-time contributor Sarah Parkin was the excellent guest on episode 2. So if you like wrestling and also happen to like Discworld, give that a listen. That is Discworld Order. We will be back next month. We don't know what yet. We'll have a chat after this, I suppose, and figure out what the next episode is going to be. But there will be an episode. And until then, there's 2 things you can do about it. That's happy and birthday!
Hey.